Hello?
Hello, hello.
Hey.
Hey, man. What's going on?
Um, Not much. So yeah, I was a fan before, but I kind of stopped watching um after kind of after the Gamergate kind of stuff was over. Um, so
I don't think I ever did a video on Gamergate. I'm not a gamer.
yeah,
I had nothing to do with that
it was
stuff.
probably just like the whole SJW stuff that was happening during that. So um
hmm
so
Still happening.
yeah. That's kind of where the contention is. Um, I think that
So you are an SJW.
no. I
Hmm.
would be what you consider an anti SJW like in 2016, but I wouldn't consider myself an anti SJW now because it seems like the people who call themselves that are like they go too far. But
How do you go too far?
um, it's you know how like when feminists like when someone calls themselves a feminist, you know that they're like
hmm
kind of crazy. Fuck, this is gonna sound bad because it sounds like I'm calling you crazy. I don't think you're racist, and I don't think you're crazy or anything. But
hmm
generally, when people call themselves like the anti SJW label, it's like changed. Like now, it, it's like people who focus a lot on race and find scenarios in like colleges and stuff that aren't really um like they don't really show the breadth of like the culture or whatever. It's kind of just like here are these edge cases, but like they make fuck. I'm just gonna talk about you. You make
No, no, that's fine. Mhm.
you make like a lot of videos about like SJWs and like race and stuff, and it feels like since you make a ton of them, that it kind of blows the issue out of proportion.
Hmm. Um, I don't even know how to begin with that. I don't even know what an SJW is today by your definition. I mean, I'm not doing videos going, "Hey, look at the libs of TikTok. Aren't they lame?" I mean, I'm not making fun of feminists. I don't really. I mean, loosely SJWs. If you're talking about people on the far left, I have massive criticism for the people on the far left.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that's my political standpoint, and I'm especially irritated with them because they've ruined my side of the political aisle. So, like, if someone's supportive of reparations, is that an SJW? And if I'm against that, am I anti-SJW?
well, I mean, that would be a little bit SJW if they support SJ reparations. Actually, I don't know. But
I mean, but to me, SJW was like the most comical feminist blue hair in her attic, making videos about the wage gap, and I'm not doing that. But you're saying if you make too many videos about a topic, you're making it seem like it's a bigger deal than it is. I think
yeah,
race is a huge deal. It's an enormous deal, and I'm not the one starting this. I'm the one reacting to it. I'm a social commentator. And in
yeah,
case you've been asleep for the last 10 years, we're having massive problems when it comes to race relations in the country.
yeah.
So,
Do you cover? I mean, I haven't really watched it. I've
uh,
like browsed your channel on like BitChute or whatever, and I see like
mhm,
bleeps are doing this and bleeps are doing that. Um,
yeah,
and I know you use that because like you don't want to get censored or whatever. But
as a joke.
yeah.
Mhm,
Uh, but do you think that um like TYT for example, they
mhm,
constantly pick out like neo-Nazi here, neo-Nazi there, neo-Nazi everywhere, and
mhm,
their audience basically thinks that like neo-Nazism is like a huge problem, and I'm kind of mirroring that
right.
to you.
Oh, yeah, but the problem is the facts are on my side. I mean, I just did a video about mass shooting in this country, and I showed what AI thinks mass shooters look like. which is just like white dudes. So like I don't know if you saw my thumbnail, but like if you ask Midjourney to give you a mass shooter from America or a mass shooter from Chicago, it gives you stuff like this. And out of the 39 shootings this month, how many white guys do you think were part of that?
Um, Probably not a lot, but I
No,
don't.
what's your guess? I mean, the average mass shooter is people think it's a white guy.
Yeah. Um,
I mean,
I mean, I.
you're
Yeah.
telling me if I talk about bleeps, I'm making it seem worse than it is.
Yeah. I'm saying like because first of all, I think this AI thing isn't like just because AI generates what. Okay, let me gather my thoughts.
No, but I'm not blaming AI. AI is it takes the word mass shooter
Yeah.
and looks at every image associated with that, and a lot of the time it's going to be Dylan Roof or a school shooter, or that phrase mass shooter gets a lot of publicity when it is a white shooter,
Yeah.
and so it's
Yeah.
flooded,
Yeah. I understand.
and that's a problem that I'm discussing. But I don't think I'm making it a I think a bigger problem than it is. I think I'm acknowledging the size of the problem. So to answer the question, out of the 39 mass shooters this month, one has been white, and it was some guy in Utah who killed his own family and then himself. And about 93% were black,
Yeah.
and that never got mentioned by the news, not once.
Yeah. So
And so, like, I fill in a niche, which no one else does, which is I'm going to push back against the silence when it comes to calling out who's doing the mass murdering or the rape or whatever else. Like I just feel like that's the moral thing to do. But because of our society has been kidnapped and held hostage by racial guilt and just racial animosity, and we're all being extorted, almost financially. Like, I mean, that's the final end goal. But if you try to push back and speak out against black people, not in general, against the ones doing the mayhem, and it's important because this is not a blue-haired feminist in her attic. It's people murdering people and raping people. Then you get silenced and censored. Like I just got banned from Patreon yesterday. I've been banned from PayPal. Obviously, been banned from YouTube. I've been banned from Vimeo, like all sorts of places. And it's not because I'm hateful or I say anything bad. It's because I'm morally coherent,
yeah.
and I'm just calling out this segment of our society that is disproportionately acting insane morally.
Um.
So I don't know. To me, that feels important, and I don't know what you think. I am generating more of a like. You're basically blaming the messenger. You're saying there is no problem here. It's just you harping on that. That's the problem.
Yeah. In terms of the AI thing, um,
Yeah.
I guess there's like a question of why the media covers white mass shooters as opposed to black mass shooters. And do you think that's
Um,
just because they're trying to like do like a race kind of thing to like get views or stuff?
yeah, it's a sexy story to sell the idea that white people are evil and nasty, and we are the causers of harm. It fits in with we did the enslaving, we did the colonizing, we killed the Indians, we're the bad guys. And everyone else gets a pass for their despicable behavior. So Dylan Roof gets all sorts of publicity. The same week or month that Dylan Roof did his shit, a guy named Vester Flanagan killed two white people live on TV. And he did it in revenge of Dylan Roof. And he wrote the names of the victims of Dylan Roof on his bullets. Now, that was sensational. That was live on camera. Dylan Roof wasn't live on camera. Vester Flanagan is not a famous dude. You probably never heard of him.
Yeah.
So the 39 mass shootings, which ones did we hear about this month? The Asian one. There's two Asian ones that we've heard about. That made national news. Why? Because it's different, it's sexier, it's sensational, it can get clicks. It's an Asian grandfather killing people. So it's a human interest story. Blacks killing people is an ugly tale that the mainstream media does not want to hear about, even though it's 95%, and they were 95% of the mass shootings in January, and they're 12% of the country.
Hmm.
Like, this is a freaking outrage. And the idea that we're going to waste our time talking about one story or another, we're getting fed very um, fabricated narratives that the mainstream media is happy to tell you. This is the same mainstream media that has stuffed their rosters filled with black people to absolve white guilt. Every morning show, NBC, ABC, CBS, it's 68-70% black anchors.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a laughable decision that has been made here. We're in the midst of like a mushroom cloud of white guilt and racial politics, and you are completely, it's totally taboo to speak out against this or to call it out.
Mhm.
And I get someone like you coming to me saying, I don't even watch your videos, but I think you're calling it out too much. And you don't even know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. There's also like, do you think that there could be a difference between the white shooters and the black mass shootings, or do you think like, no, they're completely the same? Or
We're talking about IQ.
because I'm,
The difference, yeah, there's a different context for sure.
yeah,
There's all sorts of different kinds of mass shooting. There's like dudes who are incels who go berserk and just kill randomly. There are dudes who are just flaming out. It's like a suicide mission. Then there's like personal issues. Guy goes into his work. Guy shoots up and kills his family. Then there's gang banging and shooting at a nightclub. It's a fight that just guy pulls out a gun. He turns violent. I mean, yeah, there's all sorts of different kinds. None of it's good. But I mean, what's the point of talking about mass shooting or anything for that matter if you're not going to get specific and call out the people doing it? And to think that race doesn't play a part, it doesn't mean race is the causal factor, but it's like it is a pattern that to ignore is basically insane.
um,
I'm against murder.
yeah,
Like I'm against murderers in prison being released. Are you against that?
yeah,
So I'm against the Innocence Project and what they're doing, trying to get dudes who are obviously guilty out of prison. And they're 99% of the time, those are black people. And actually, like 90% of the time, it's black people who have killed white people. They
yeah,
have massive campaigns to get these people out of prison. I'm against it. If it were white murderers who killed black people and there was a campaign to get those guys out of prison, I'd be against that. And I do videos about that, but that just doesn't happen.
all right. Devin, could
Yeah.
I? This is gonna sound weird, but could I get my brother to talk?
Who is
He's smarter.
he? Okay. What is his political affiliation?
He's probably liberal, pretty much.
He's a liberal. Okay.
Yeah,
He's a shit lib.
but oh,
Okay.
also,
Well, I mean, I'm a liberal too. I mean, I take shit. I hate Trump. I'm pro gun control. I am pro abortion. Uh, Obama, Democrat.
yeah.
Like that's what people might not understand, but
I
that's
guess
wrong.
before I get him, can I just ask? Do you know who Destiny is?
Yeah, of course.
Um, would you ever like consider talking to him or?
I mean, not really. I think he was on record saying I'm a psychopath or something like that. Just talking shit. I don't think he's watched my stuff um, but yeah, I don't have any interest to go into that community and be some sort of um, a punching bag or like someone to be judged by a group of spurgs. Like it has no interest to me.
Yeah, I don't want to come off like a simp or anything, but like
Mm,
If you come and you talk to Destiny, he's like the most good faith kind of person. And I don't know why
what?
he called you insane.
Mm-hmm.
I
All right.
didn't hear that, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you would get a good conversation out of him. And his community might hate you probably because of
Yeah, why would I walk into tens of thousands of people who hate me? And I don't know why they would hate me, but it's just people look for targets on the internet.
yeah. But if you
And
make
especially in internet blood sports, they're like, oh, here's a guy who talks about race. Fuck him.
if you
Like, it's just retarded.
if you make a good case though, like his audience isn't. I don't think they're
Yeah,
dumbasses.
but I already agree with Destiny on shit. Like, as Destiny's gotten older, he's gotten smarter. And that's why he's pushed away from the far left. I mean, it's taken him long enough, and he's still not fully there, but like, he's been right about Breonna Taylor, Kyle Rittenhouse, trans in sports, like you name it. These are just like common sense positions that someone who is older and wiser, like myself, is not that impressed with. It's like a dude going, you know what? I was a flat earther for a while, but it is round. I figured that out. It's like, oh, good for you, Destiny. You figured out some basic shit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think personally. I don't think he'd go. I don't think like I see you as more extreme than him, and I don't think he'd ever make it to that extreme.
What do you mean extreme? What are my extreme positions? And I have to deal with bullshit like they go, hey, you're a race realist. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I don't think you're a
You think
racist.
race is real, but what race is real?
Well,
Race is as real as cereals are real. Like breakfast cereal is real.
that's not what they
It,
mean though.
but
Like race
what do you mean by
realists,
race realist?
race realists are people that think like black people are like superior in like running and like doing all this shit, and black people they have
They
like a
are.
genetic
They do.
predisposition to commit crime and stuff, and that like
No, but see that's wedged in there. Just the very notion that the category that we know as race is a legitimate thing. It is based in biology and culture and history. I mean, it is absolutely real. Everyone thinks it's real. It's the weirdest thing in the world to point to a white person and go, "Ah, you think race is real." Everyone does.
I don't think race isn't really. I don't think it's that bio. It's more cultural. Like who was
Wait,
considered
wait a minute.
black, one who was considered white in one time period is considered. I mean,
Yeah,
black is
okay, so
considered. Yeah,
yeah, but depending on the time in history, yeah, different people have different ways of doing that. In South Africa, the if you're half black, you're called colored.
yeah,
Um, so be it. I mean, yeah, it's somewhat arbitrary if you want to call half a black. I mean, we call Obama black. You could call him white if you want,
yeah. But
but
there's like
but
no
yeah,
like
but just because there's purple doesn't mean blue and red doesn't exist.
no the colors exist, but the like it's very
Melanin is real.
yeah yeah
The biological differences are real. The fast twitch muscle fiber is real. The level of testosterone is real, and the IQ tests are all real.
yeah.
I mean,
If you were to say
okay,
that about like ethnicity, I'm all for that. But with race, it's like there's
what's the
nothing.
difference?
Ethnicity is more of like where you come from. It's way more location based, whereas race is kind of way more variable. Like there's only how many
Well,
races are there? There's only like
well, yeah, but now it's just a matter of how general or specific you're talking about. So if in America we have a very dumb version of like black and white, there's a lot of different kinds of whites. There's a lot of different kinds of blacks. So yeah, sub-Saharan, North African, what
yeah,
are
but
we
that's
talking about? Like,
ethnicity.
but no, like the Aboriginals of Australia, that's a race of people. It's not an ethnic group, and
Oh
they have an IQ. That's a certain thing. You can compare that to, you know, well, yeah, it doesn't even matter. The point is there are different groups of people that exhibit different characteristics.
yeah
Agreed? Now we can call that whatever we want. We like to call it race, but it's just a term. Everyone knows that. The Nigerians are not the same as the Zulus. They know that.
yeah.
It makes sense to have words to say you guys, us guys. That's all anyone's saying.
When it comes to like crime and stuff, though,
Mhm.
I don't think you
You're
could
pro
really.
you're pro crime.
No, I don't think you could correlate that with race. Like you could
Okay, but
correlate
well,
it,
wait a minute.
but
Yeah,
it's
I'll
not
correlate it.
because of race, obviously.
Okay, but why are you debunking something that was never said? Who said it was because of
Well,
race?
that's what race realists say. So that's why I'm like kind of
Okay,
putting
well,
it
I
together.
think the main to steelman their point, and it's a pretty damning point. Um, we know that the lower your IQ, the greater chance there is that you will commit crime. We know that, and we also know your tendency to be violent increases with your testosterone.
Hmm.
Are you aware of that? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's probably true, but also
probably. Mhm.
yeah, it's true.
I mean, do you realize why men commit more violent crimes than women?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is it just because we suck, or is
But
it because we
like,
have testosterone?
but you can't like correlate black people's IQ to like crime, especially since
No,
like
but
um
it's a very simple point. I'm saying, do you agree that the lower your IQ, the greater chance there is that you're going to commit crime?
yeah,
I mean,
sure.
it's not even controversial at that point.
Yeah.
And neither is this testosterone when it comes to violence. And mixed together, you're going to get more violent crime if you have more testosterone and a lower IQ. The question then becomes to you, do you think that on average, black people and white people, or black people and Asian people, have the same level of testosterone and the same IQ?
No.
So then you don't expect them to produce the same degree of crime.
Yeah, no. But like it's
So you're
not
not shocked by the numbers. I mean, the numbers line up. The white people's crime rate in America lines up to that of Scandinavia or Western Europe
yeah.
when it comes to whites over there. Black people's violent crime rate in America lines up to that of African nations. You think, I mean, that cannot be a coincidence.
I mean what I'm trying to say is
And there's cultural issues too, on top of that.
fuck. I don't even want to bring up epigenetics, but like I think IQ is also variable depending on like the schooling and the opportunities they're
But
given to.
but but schooling is not IQ. That's knowledge. That's your education.
I'm
We're talking about
pretty
your hardware.
I'm pretty sure your IQ is variable, maybe. I'm not
What do you mean
sure.
variable?
Like it's subject to
Like it can
change,
change.
I
Okay, yeah.
think.
There's some change is possible, but often people, yeah, different tests and whatever. But there are averages. We're talking about after thousands upon thousands of studies over years and years and years. This result has come out. I mean, how else would you explain that what we see on the ground? I mean, the answer for a lot of leftists is, oh, they'll just chalk it up to all racism. They'll find a way to blame white people for every nefarious thing that a black person does,
Yeah, but
which
it
is insane.
like Ashkenazi Jews are like the smartest. They have like the highest IQ, right?
Sure.
Like
With the Asians, but yeah.
yeah, like would you just take that as fact, or would you think, oh, maybe there's like something that happened that made Ashkenazi Jews so much higher IQ proportion than like all of the other
Well, I mean,
population?
what happened is they were literate, um, and they interbred, not like incest, but they had a very tight um, pool, like mating pool, and they kept, smart people had sex and had gave birth to smart babies, and then they educated those babies, and yeah, I mean, it's a success story. But eventually, and this is Darwinism, over time, you have a bunch of smart people breeding with each other generally.
Yeah, but in like the Holocaust pretty much killed all of the lower IQ Jews. So there's like a really
Why would you say that?
um well, I'm pretty sure this has been like I'm
Global.
pretty
Oh.
sure historians probably say this that like
Mhm.
because like the less wealthy, because wealth probably correlates with IQ and stuff. The less wealthy Jews, so probably the lower IQ Jews, are probably not going to survive the Holocaust because they're more likely to not have opportunities to get out.
Well, no. I mean, there was no way out of that scenario. You can't say you're dumb if you died in the Holocaust. I mean,
Yeah, but if you're rich, you probably have opportunities to survive somehow.
um, I think some rich people had a chance to get out earlier. Like, I mean, they could have seen it coming, but a lot of rich Jews died and their shit was just commandeered and taken over. And I wouldn't say dying in the Holocaust is a statement about your IQ. But either way, the 6 million that died, or that there's more than that, but it's hard to track. Um, they rebounded, and they're still the same bloodlines, and on average, the math of it doesn't lie.
I'm pr-
And I'm willing to accept all that too. And you look at the way Jews perform when it comes to crime. Um, don't don't focus on Harvey Weinstein and some of those people, but look at how they are in terms of violent crime. Look at how the Asians are in terms of crime, and then ask yourself why. I mean, another factor is an exacerbating factor is that they have strong families that tend to have married two-parent families, and they raise their kids with well basically. So they give them every chance to succeed, and on the flip side of that, blacks don't do that to a shocking degree, and they're raising their kids poorly. And the culture at their schools and in their community normalizes criminal activity, drug dealing, get rich quick or die trying, and it's yeah, a terrible cocktail.
yeah, but couldn't it
But
come from
it's
like historical factors that contribute to it?
what?
Couldn't it come
Well,
from like
yeah, yeah. I can hear you wishing that it's that. So you hope to not hold them accountable.
I
What historical factor causes them to not marry or raise their kids well?
Um, well, if they're disproportionately like poor on average because they had less opportunities before, and then there's like generational wealth, then
Yeah, but if you're
it would just lead
disproportionately
to
poor,
shithole.
that's more reason to get married and have two incomes. I
Uh,
mean, you
is
don't
it?
being poor.
I don't know.
Yeah, of course. If you're poor, I mean, first of all, if they're poor, it's on them, and they need to rise
Uh,
up. And also, being poor is not an excuse to be violent or be criminal.
yeah,
So,
but it's just gonna
not
happen. Like the
well,
poor communities are.
no, we have immigrant communities who are poor. They come here with nothing. They work hard. They rise up and they earn and they provide their families with a better future.
Yeah, but I think
Why are you
why
willing to give these people a pass because they're poor?
I don't think I I don't like. I think you're essentializing it way too much to race and not just seeing it like people are
I'm not. I'm
people.
not. What do you mean? What? I'm not saying anything they're doing. It's because of race.
Well,
They're they do what they do, and I'm reacting to it, and I know the numbers and the
yeah,
patterns.
but you're asking like what you're asking like why are black communities so much more likely to commit crimes than like a poor immigrant community? And like
Hmm.
if you essentialize that to race, then you're basically saying race realism is real. It's not like historical factors influence their
I'm not
wealth or
saying
whatever.
no. I'm not saying their race. They used to be married. It's their culture. The culture that is doing that in today's society are black people. They're the ones producing generation after generation of unfathered children who are morally suspect, who go out there and commit crime. And one out of three of them go end up in the prison system.
Yeah,
I'm not
but
saying that's because they're black. Who's saying that? I'm
okay.
saying that's what is happening. And if you want to have the IQ and the testosterone conversation, that's probably too advanced for most human beings because they don't really want to address it because it's basically you can do nothing about it. So white people who are very bleeding heart and they want to solve things and they want to apologize for slavery, they're not going to sit there and be like, look, there's certain tendencies that you guys do have, and we see this all over the world. This is not an American thing. We see the same stats in Canada and in England and in Australia, um, and it's just kind of it sucks. But I'm not going to condemn you for it because I'd rather just self-flagellate and say sorry about slavery, even though you had nothing to do with it. Um, and
Yeah.
you make excuses, and I'm sitting here talking about people harming other people themselves. By the way, 93% of the time, if a black is killed, it's from another black, and I'm against it. I mean, this is like morally obvious stance to take. And you're like, yeah, but I think it's pre-existing
No, I'm not.
things, and I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
historical
The
things.
thing
Like what?
is I'm not making excuses for them to commit crime. I'm saying that they commit crime probably because of other reasons.
What reason did the 30 guys this last month who did mass shootings? What excuse or what reason is going to make that less atrocious?
Whatever environmental or genetic factors led to that. But like
Environmental or genetic? I thought you're the one that says it's nothing to do with genetics. It's just all culture.
no, everything has to do with genetics and environment.
Okay. Well, am I allowed to criticize the wildly disproportionate, most criminal element of my society?
Yeah, carefully.
Carefully. Why? Otherwise, I get
Because
banned from.
if you end up saying like this black person did that, this black person did that, and you keep going that route instead
Mhm.
of qualifying it, like then people
Well,
are
I
just
do
going to think that
qualify. I
black.
qualify and I say that not all. I'm not talking about all blacks. I'm talking about the ones that are doing this, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, like, so if it's a guy who has a great family and he works hard and he pays his taxes and he's a great dentist, and then fine. That's awesome. And I also qualify. I'm against Hispanic criminals. I'm against white criminals. I'm aware they exist, but I'm also aware of the numbers and the disparity between the two.
Yeah, I'm just saying like you could say there's some good black people, but if you say that
No,
like
but
this
that sounds bad to say there's some good blacks. It's like most of them are shit, but there are some good. No, I'm saying most of them are good, some are shit. And I'm saying most white people are good, some are shit, but the numbers do matter.
yeah. So when like black people commit like more than half the murders and they make up like 13% of the population, what does that statistic
Right.
mean to you?
It's actually getting worse. I think it was 60 now. It's and I call it 360. So you said 13%. They're actually less than that now. They're 12%.
Oh shit.
And I dive even deeper into it because it's not old black people. Well, first of all, it's not women by and large. So already you cut it down to 6% of our country. And it's not the old, super old dudes and it's not the super young dudes. It's like the young black males. So it's around 3% of our country is committing 60% of the murders.
Yeah.
And it's not hard to see. Go look at a music video that comes out where they're pointing the guns at the camera, talking about "I will kill you. Here is the gun I'm going to use to commit the crime." It's like it's a Key and Peele sketch. It's a joke what
Yeah.
this community has become. And what do you expect to have happen when you have fatherless kids, and half the time the mother is no picnic either. And yeah, it's just a disaster. If you add some economic hardship on top of it, um, yeah, it's a not going well for them. But it's so funny to see people squirm with the discomfort of it all and like blame white people or blame America or blame slavery. It's just like, what? This is like a blind spot of a massive scale. It's really weird. And all I do is just state the obvious, and people are like, "Whoa, what a renegade!"
But so when you hear that statistic, like, what do
Mhm.
you think about black people? Like, do you think like what like
Well, no,
what's the
I
reason for
think
that statistic?
I think that those black people who commit those crimes should be condemned, and I think the numbers are ridiculous, and I think it's a stain on our society.
Yeah, I agree with
I
that.
think it's a freaking tragic like mess up. They're screwing it up for the rest of us.
Yeah, I agree
I
with
don't I
that.
don't want to live with that shit. I mean, right now I'm in Berlin. We don't have that shit out here. I've visited all these other countries. I've lived all over the world. I've seen so many other ways to live life, and it's like I don't want it to be normalized that we have just gangbangers and hoods and ghetto ass shit and drive-bys, and I mean it's at an all-time high. And
Yeah.
so, what do I think about that number? I think it's the same trend and the same pattern that's been going on for years. I think it's totally unacceptable, and I'm standing up and calling it out, saying this is bullshit.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, sure. But what I'm getting at that is basically
Mhm.
not like like your feelings toward that statistic. I'm more getting at like why do you think that statistic is the statistic that it is? Why isn't it
Well,
lower? Why isn't it
it
higher?
a variety of things, but I mean, it is gang culture. So already, if you just want to say the gangs in the black community, they just they create more violence. So a lot of this is back and forth. It's drug dealing. It's people trying to get rich, and having really no sense of a moral code. They don't value life. They don't have the same sense of right and wrong
Yeah.
that most people would. It's not taught to them, I guess, by their parents or by their friend group. They are acting in a scandalous way out of self-interest. And then you have like revenge killings, and you got all sorts of crap going on. But it's just like you got 12-year-olds rolling up with guns. So you could talk about the ease in which they have access to guns. That's shit. You could talk about their failed performance in schools. So like if they did better in schools, if they prioritized school, if they had parents that demanded they do such, if they felt like they had economic future ahead of them, and they do it the right way, then maybe they wouldn't dive into this culture of violence and criminality. I mean,
Yeah.
it's also just stupid. I mean, these people get caught. Like, they're not good criminals by and large. So they go to the prison system. Then guess what the prison system does? It makes them even more criminal. They get let out. They commit more crime. And by the way, they're in they're in prison, so they're not raising their kids. They're having children out of wedlock. A lot of them. Those kids don't have the guidance. So you don't even have to talk about IQ or testosterone. If you don't have a parent, a father, you're fucked. If you're white, the chances that you're not going to finish college, you're not going to make good money, you're going to end up in jail, it goes up a big amount. So they have multiple factors going on that makes their performance in our country, because the message is so big and ugly. It's just like,
Oh,
damn,
sorry.
what are we supposed to do? Yeah. You could shut down a messenger. You can't shut down this
Wait.
message.
Wait, I can't hear you. Wait, can you
Hold on.
keep talking?
Hold
I can hear him just fine.
Shit.
Hello.
Uh,
on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
what the hell happened?
Okay.
Might be Sorrow having problems, not you.
Okay.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Oh, wait. Fuck.
Hmm.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay. What's up?
Um,
What's up, Fobbit?
Oh, not much.
here, wait, hold on. I'm gonna try and
Mm-hmm.
get this to come out of my speakers so that like my brother can
Okay.
talk and I can hear.
Okay. Work
Or
your magic.
all right.
Well, we make filters for drill.
Okay. What the hell?
I've been in here and I spoke with you once before, back in like 2018. No,
Oh,
19.
nice. Years ago.
It's easy for me to remember because I remember where I was and I moved there
Mm,
right at the start of 2019.
oh,
Okay,
nice.
it's working. It's working. Okay, before I just want to ask another question. Um, so, um, so basically, I was just saying, like, if I keep asking
Mhm,
why is the black culture the way it is, and keep going back, does it eventually
mhm.
get to just they're black,
Skull shape.
skull shape?
Um, no,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
kidding.
yeah.
It eventually gets to some hard truths that we see evidence of, not just current day, but current year, current decade, current past 100 years, not just in America, all over the world. We see patterns of behavior. We see the effects of how these people live and operate in their societies. Go look at the murder rate in Haiti or in Liberia. I mean, we're acting so shocked, like, wow, there's a disparity in America. No one's sitting here bitching about the crime rate in South Africa or what they're up to over there. I mean, it's a freaking ghastly performance if you want to compare it, compare and contrast. So I don't know why you're on a crusade to get me on a gotcha. There's something deep in me that if you just keep saying why, I'm going to go, you know what, they're just a bunch of ends. And they go, aha, that's the dude. It's his problem. It's his just random hatred. And he has no case, and there's nothing to see here. And I can go back to my life of deluding myself that there's nothing going on with the black community when it comes to disproportionate criminality. Or not just that. I mean, it's their failure on almost every metric that matters.
Do you
They're
th-
not living up to what they should be.
do you th-
Or what? Yeah. Hello?
I was just gonna say, do you think that like instead of black people being enslaved, they were like integrated into society through like immigration or whatever? Do you think that it would be the same as how it is now?
Well, no. First of all, if they were not enslaved, we would have a different scenario. So we have seen those results. We have immigration of blacks to our country from Nigeria, West Africa, um, the Bahamas, other places, and we see that those people do better,
Yeah.
and they're not involved in the same um, system where it's like, but that filters for people who are strong families, have some money, have some
And higher IQ.
functionality. Probably that as well.
But
So like,
Yep.
do you consider Nigerians black, like a part of the black race, or no?
of, of course, I mean, loosely speaking, yeah. I mean, if you don't think there's a relevant difference between a Nigerian and just like some dude from the south side of Chicago,
Yeah, I do.
one way to describe those people is yes, they are both black. They're both African descended human beings. I
Uh,
would say that their cultural differences also matter and are significant.
so you're basically saying that different ethnicities have like inherent traits about them, and
No,
like
but see, you are loading the conversation with that word inherent.
no, I'm
Like, there's nothing that could change this. They're born this way,
yeah, I
baby.
know, I
No,
agree, I
I'm,
agree.
I'm talking
I
about we have a long case study called human history to look at what different groups of people do, how they act, how they perform on average.
Yeah,
So, so it's not me. It's not like some personal like guessing game I'm doing here. It's like look at what has happened. I
yeah.
mean, you can get more a more interesting conversation is why has the black community gone off the rails since in the past 100 years? They were doing better at the end of the 19th century in many ways than they are now. I mean, they had families, they had religion, they had stability. They were hardworking dudes. They were not criminal in the same way they are now.
Well,
The
they also had
communist
like,
agitators definitely fucked that up.
The commies, huh?
I mean, they had like Jim Crow and stuff. I mean, they were kind of kept in check.
But
They were
but they did well.
segregated.
Well, that's only in the South. But yeah, segregated or not, they were doing better. Like for example, if you just focus on the marriage, look at the marriage rate fall off a cliff from the 1930s, 40s to now. And you don't think that has an impact? And you're gonna blame white people for the fact that they're not getting
No,
married and
no,
staying
no, no.
married?
I'm never blaming white people. I'm just saying that like yes, there are inherent traits about different ethnicities, but when it comes to crime, I don't think there's like an inherent more violent trait in like different ethnicities that would justify, um,
But
like it's way more
but you do acknowledge, but
contextual.
you do acknowledge that IQ and testosterone do factor into the likelihood you will be a criminal.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that, um, just because like you could have a low IQ population. I don't think there's necessarily going to be a high crime rate.
If you have the combination of those things mixed with no parenting and mixed with a culture that celebrates criminality and being a thug, I mean, that's basically the outcome.
Yeah, but
This is the outcome.
the culture comes from like context. But like just having IQ, like low
Mm-hmm.
IQ, and what was the other one?
Testosterone.
Testosterone. I don't think that creates crime. Like I think you could have like an, um,
It creates more of a likelihood to have crime. And this,
Influences.
yeah,
put it this way, the same reason why it's effortless for you to acknowledge that men are going to commit more crime than women, and the same way that it's also effortless for you to acknowledge that young men are going to commit way more crime than older men. That's what we're talking about.
yeah,
It's not an accident. It's the more stupid you are and the more chemicals you have in you that, I mean, this is one large factor in why we see what we see.
if you
I'm not even. Mhm,
if you take like a white low IQ high
mhm.
testosterone guy versus like the average black guy, I don't know if let's just say he has lower testosterone and,
Mhm.
um, higher IQ. You think that, the white guy is going to be more likely to commit the crime?
Then other factors will come into play. It'll be, I mean, yeah, white guys commit crime all the time, and we could forget talking about blacks and just talk about white criminals versus non-white criminals, and we'd say, what was that guy's IQ? Was he a young white man? Do young white men commit more crime than older white men?
Yeah,
Of course.
I think
Um,
I th-
mhm.
I think that if you take the, like let's just add in one more variable, the black person with like the average IQ and low testosterone is in like a poor neighborhood. I think if you add
Mhm.
that into the play, I think that that black person will be more likely to commit the crime than the white person with high IQ. I mean low
Likely to
Well,
IQ.
be
Yeah.
more likely to be victimized by the stronger criminals around him.
yeah, I mean, there are environments that are terrible, and they breed a culture of crime. It's still not an excuse. I mean, we still have laws. Our laws don't say you can't commit crime unless you come from a fucked up neighborhood. Then we understand it. It's like the end result's the same, but it's like, yeah, obviously, if a guy is born into a rich family and he has great parents, forget his IQ, forget his testosterone. There's a stronger likelihood he's not going to get caught up in crime. I mean, I've done stories. A guy named Julius Jones. He had a strong father, a religious dude. He had a loving family. He was going to University of Oklahoma. He was a great student. And what did he do? He got there and decided, I want to be a gangster. Bought a gun, became a gangster, started robbing cars, and ended up killing a guy. Like, so
Oh, is
that,
that why I have armor?
yeah, exactly. Body armor.
Yeah, I
Um,
do. I live in Oklahoma City.
oh, right, exactly. This was out in Edmond. Um,
Oh yeah, that's up north.
yeah,
Oh,
and apparently
I live
all
in Yukon.
the whites left Oklahoma City because it was too dangerous because the bleeps had came in, and some of these bleeps went up to Edmond and killed a guy, and it's like, oh damn. So it's almost as if you are seeking for a way to frame this so that we do not speak too harshly of this community that is constantly committing the most heinous acts a human can commit, and it's like you're trying to get around the discomfort of just how colossal the disparity is and what it represents in terms of a failure of a people. And it's like everyone's worried, oh, who's better? What race is better? What supreme this, supreme that? No one's sitting here doing a chest beating. We just want to get along and watch TV shows and like love people, raise our kids, and be happy. No one is sitting here doing a dick measuring contest. By the way, we lose that. You know, but let me ask you, SF, if you were if you were, in theory, going to compare one race of people to another, I'm not saying tell me who you think the best is. I'm saying how would you judge that? Not
uh,
just on a hunch. I'm saying if you were to make a science of it, what possible factors would you create to compare the performance of a group, and I know it's a generalization, one group versus another group.
Like what factors do I think are more likely to lead to that group
Like,
failing?
yeah, I mean, races. We'll put race on the side.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't
Country
put
versus
race.
a country. Let's say you. I'm asking you, which country is superior, Japan or South Korea, for example?
South Korea.
And this is not just like I like South Korea more.
Yeah,
Is there any logical way for you to compare and say which one is actually better? If
Yeah.
that makes any sense.
yeah. I would probably compare based on culture, but I would always throw race to the side because if I were to compare white people to black people, I wouldn't. The variable wouldn't be white and black. It would probably be like, what is their culture like? Their are they in poverty? Those are kinds of things that I would look
So
at.
so then, if I were to ask you, forget the race right now, but Japan versus Korea, you're saying poverty. So you're saying economic.
Oh well, that has like you for that you would have to take in a ton of historical background, which I have no idea about that. That would lead to that. But like
It
that's
doesn't matter the background. I'm saying right now, if you say, look, Japan is superior to Korea, why? They make more money. The average citizen of Japan has a greater household income. Therefore, they have a better standard of living. And
yeah
I believe income, standard of living, and also they live longer. They live a year longer on average. And I think that's important. They have a better healthcare system. So whatever it is, you could measure it, right?
yeah.
So how
Yeah, I would probably measure it based on morality, kind of like the crime, like
okay.
the different
So right.
yeah.
So you say, look, Japan has a 2% crime rate or whatever, and Korea has 3. And so I think there's more criminals in Korea. So on that factor, that metric, I would lean towards Japan because they are morally performing in a superior way.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. But that has nothing to do with race.
Okay, but I'm just talking about metrics to compare one group to another.
Yeah.
Because what do we hear all about? We always hear about white supremacy, who's better than who, as if people are going around shouting this from the rooftops. What I find interesting is that no one would ever even enter a debate as to how you would measure that. You know, you could come out and say, every human has human dignity, all humans are sacred, all humans have rights, equal rights, etc. That's all fine, and we all acknowledge that. But if I said to you, the average black in America lives to be 71, average white 77. The average white makes what? Has 10 times the wealth of a black? Now, there's historical reasons for that, generational wealth being passed along. But the average white makes more money than the average black. And we could swap out white for Indian or Asian or Jewish, you know. But you could talk about, so educationally, they're doing better. IQ tests, they're doing better. Economically, they're doing better. Crime, they're doing better. Life expectancy, doing better. When it comes to the arts and contributions in terms of the sciences or whatever, you know, you can make a case either side. It's not like blacks don't contribute on those fronts, but to a lesser degree in certain fields and to a greater degree in other fields. But no one wants to do this calculation because they already know the answers.
Yeah.
And so the accusation, you're a white supremacist, look at the reality of the world and who is doing better. The whole case that we live in a white supremacist world is that blacks are not doing as well.
I
Now,
I don't agree with that.
You don't agree?
No, yeah, I think when someone says they're like the white supremacist isn't like blacks have lower wealth on average, that's why they're less superior. Like they're saying blacks, there's something inherently bad about black people, and that's why white people are superior. And I think it's all based on the majority of it. Maybe like a tiny bit is based on like just where your ethnicity, but most of it is based on your luck, like your how history played out and what that leads to.
But okay, why does history play out the way it did? I mean,
Luck.
you're acting like that's
Yeah.
independent. Luck?
Yeah.
Luck?
Yeah,
Hundreds
because
of thousands of years of human development, it's a luck.
yeah, people are going to be born in different environments with different resources.
Yeah, but Europeans were born in the worst environment.
I'm not saying that like maybe being born like I can't judge the I'm just saying that based on that, like do you agree with that? Like it's not based on race. It's not based on their ethnicity. It's based on where they happen to be and how history plays out.
Okay, so if you think you took the Aboriginals of Australia, plopped them in Japan, and all the Japanese left and went to Australia, and it gave them 50 years, what do you think you're going to find?
Yeah, 50 years is a way too small, kind of like how countries develop.
What's going to happen is their IQs are going to play out over time, and Japan's going to create a new Japan in Australia, and the Aboriginals are going to be living in the Stone Age in Japan. I mean,
If they make it through the winter.
right. So you're acting like history was an accident, and I'm saying it's anything but. Why do you think every European country or white majority country excels the way it does, and is sitting on top of the top 20 countries in the world?
Do you think it's
And why
because
are
of ethnicity?
African nations at the bottom? Of course.
What?
What is it? The agriculture? It's the people that occupy those countries that make it the country it is.
Well, everybody is pretty much kind of this like like besides maybe like a predisposition towards a certain disease. I don't think researchers have really found like a really huge, like it's not like we're different species, like we're different
No, but
ethnicities.
researchers have found something very huge, and it's called IQ.
A black lab and a chihuahua are the same species.
Right.
They're very different.
No, but you're acting like it's an accident that white countries are the most functional, highest standard of
Yeah.
living
They,
in the world.
IQ is affected by environment. Have you ever heard of we were talking about epigenetics, how like,
What about it? Why does that word make you feel good?
well, because you're saying that IQ is just like this inset stone thing, and I'm saying that's
No, it's
variable.
a stone. Yeah, there's some wiggle room. It's not, but big picture, if someone is smarter, you're going to see that. You're going to see the results of that.
IQ isn't affected by the environment, by the way the environment forces selection. So if only smart people survive, then you'll have a community of smart people.
I don't think that's true.
I mean, look, there's some interesting things to factor in here. Like, I don't know, I'm thinking about I was about to say, when you look at Jews, they're smart. Do they do well? Yes, everywhere. Everywhere in the world that they exist, they do well. Is that because of their IQ? In large part, yeah. It's also because of their family and their traditions and the fact that they have a working system. But they are highly functional quality human beings. When it comes to Asians, they also do well everywhere. Although the Chinese are pretty smart and they have high IQ, and China itself is not, some utopia, and it has a lot of other factors involved that keep that country not being one of the best in the world.
Yeah.
Right. So there are complexities to this. I mean, I know people like to dumb it down and give it the most simple answer ever, but there's an abundance of evidence when it comes to because this started theoretically of why are blacks in America not doing as well as whites in America or anyone else for that matter. And it's you could talk about the Hispanics. I mean, it's not as racially charged, but the Hispanics are doing better than blacks, not as good as whites. Their IQ is not as good as whites, and it's better than blacks. I mean, should that not bolster the case that these things are correlated?
Yeah, they're correlated, but if environment affects IQ, and it's not just you're this ethnicity, you have this IQ. If environment plays a role in
What do you mean? What environment? What environment
any environment
changes your
whatever environment you're in, it's going to affect your IQ.
Aside from being malnourished in your childhood, what part of the environment is going to affect your IQ? We're talking about the hardware of your brain. We're not talking about the education you get, your economic opportunities. We're just talking about the capacity of your brain to solve problems.
So reading at an early age, math at an early age, all these things affect IQ. So if you don't have those things, you're probably going to have a low IQ on average.
You're not going to maximize your potential if you don't get the best upbringing.
Yeah, so if black people have terrible education, they're always going to have lower IQ on average. It's not because of their race though.
Yeah, but this is you're hoping and praying that there is no physical biological difference.
No,
And
there
that's all
there
that
is.
matters.
I know there's biological difference. I just think they're
Okay.
they're very small, and they're subject to change too. Like they're
I think
variable.
that's very small. It's pretty big. It's like an order of magnitude.
Like
It's not an insignificant disparity.
what yeah, like the IQ right now is very like there's a wide gap. But I'm saying that's because of generations of low IQ, like low education producing low IQ at a very young
You keep
age.
interchanging education and IQ. These are not the same thing.
Education affects IQ.
How?
It does.
Well, no, it doesn't.
Devon,
Yeah.
can I say,
At very early ages, it does.
No, the Head
Said
Start program kind of
environment.
disproved that.
What?
that environment is important for high IQ, right?
Yeah.
You know what happened to Europe, like in last 150 years? What Europe experienced, World War One, World War Two, like total destruction.
Uh huh.
And you're telling me that what? That somehow they just went alone and became smarter because why? Why did they achieve shit even though they were twice completely destroyed and I don't know, people in Africa can do the same thing.
Here's the thing. It sounds like you want to have an optimistic view that something can be done to better the situation of blacks in America and worldwide.
Yeah.
And you're hoping it's environmental. You're hoping there's some societal change that can take place, that they're going to just be just like everyone else.
I know
Now,
it
this
is.
has never happened in human history on the scale that we're talking about. Obviously, there are exceptions, and the bell curve and all that. This is on a spectrum, but you've never had a country like that. We've never had a city like that. So
No, you
it
did.
seems like wishful thinking that you're just trying to will it into being, and you're saying somehow it's white people and oppression and history that has blockaded black people from having their Wakanda. It just has never happened. I'd prefer if it did.
So, is what
Just-
you're like? Do you think that if we swapped, like if black people are now in all of the white people roles, and white people are in all of the black people roles, and white people are now in shitty education and shitty culture and everything, and black people have good education and stuff, how much do you think the crime rate would decrease?
I mean, whites and blacks go to the same schools. We already have this data. It's not a determining factor. The idea that if a black just gets a good school, he's going to be fine.
No, it
And yeah,
is.
for some it helps and it does works wonders, but like they do have decent schools. It hasn't put a dent in this stuff.
Like,
I mean, they're
so you're saying if we swap all the white babies and all the black babies, that like, not like crime rate would probably stay the same, because IQ is set in stone, and it's
no, you'd have a dent. So like, it can have a huge impact if you have good parents and if you raise them with
Yeah.
a good set of values.
Yeah.
So like Kobe Bryant, I just saw a clip of him the other day where he's like, his dad showed him love, was present in his life, gave him a good life, raised him, internationally and whatnot, and then in Philadelphia, and Kobe became the man he is because of his father. Shaquille O'Neal had a stepfather. If he didn't have that guy, he could easily be in jail or dead, and he's the first to say that. So like, no, it matters a lot. So I'm never underestimating the impact of parents, but that's under the assumption that both parents are quality people who are teaching their children the right values, the right priorities. So that can counteract. I mean, put it this way: young men, myself included, if left to our own devices, we'd be out there, making horrible decisions, fucking up the program. This is the book Lord of the Flies. Like, you put guys and just leave us to our own, we become animals, basically. We lack civilization. We lack, the wisdom to know any better. So you're hoping that the older generation installs the software and says, like, I'm going to give you the best chance to succeed in the world. It's not happening in the black community. So this is something that cycles. It's like looping.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? We
I
can't
agree.
get out of this.
Yeah, it is. It is a
Alright,
cycle.
I've got to go to work, Chris. So
All right,
Sorry,
see you,
man.
talk
Bob.
to you later, man.
Have a good one, man. Talk later.
Here, man.
So you agree that if we swap white babies with black babies, that the black babies would be totally fine. They'd have good values and they wouldn't be committing crime.
No, No,
No,
but
if the parents are the same, like if the parents are the same as the black babies had, only a
No, no, no,
difference
no.
of
We're
the
just
white
swapping
parents,
babies.
they would still be shit.
We're just swapping
but they've
babies.
done no. Still, IQ still matters. Testosterone still matters, and it depends on the culture they adopt. So if a guy becomes a chess prodigy and hangs out in the chess world, he's probably going to do one thing. If a guy becomes a drug dealer, hangs out and becomes a gang member, it's like, okay, well then that decision was made.
Yeah. So how much do you think IQ and testosterone matters? Because if like I well like from my perspective, if you switch the babies, I'm pretty sure that the black babies would grow up and probably do just as fine as the white babies if they weren't switched.
No, I think it matters. I think your biology matters a huge amount. Your genetics, like your brain, is hugely important. So if
Yeah.
your brain is high functioning and you're a genius, I don't care if you're born poor, you're probably going to be a genius and figure out a way to uplift your life.
But if the
Um,
white parents instill these values into the black baby's brains, which is
mhm.
basically what happens. I mean, so they would be fine, right?
They do much better. Like
They'll
Colin
do better, yeah.
Kaepernick did much better until he became some woke advocate and started parroting off the stupid bullshit.
Uh,
Obama seemed to do well with white parents.
yeah.
Um, he's half white though. I mean, but so yeah, better parents equals better outcome. No one's disputing that. But their biologies are different, and you know, if half of the countries in Africa were outperforming half of the countries in Europe, you might have an incredible case. Be like, well, here's the success of Malawi. Look at all those people with their incredible economy and incredible standard of living and the very low crime rate. It's like there's not a single example of this, and the trends we see in America when it comes to the black community mirror black people all around the world and for centuries. And
Which
you're
is
acting like
insane.
there's something magical about America that if only we could tweak the knobs.
No. Like I think that if you like Africa is the way it is because of the environment and because of like the history behind it. Like if you
Hundreds
take
of
African babies, if you
years.
take African babies and you go put them in Europe with all the European parents, they're gonna be completely fine.
They do better, yeah. But
No, they'd be
you
completely
have some
fine, right?
Africans.
Like
I,
what would
I
be
don't
the
think the Afri-
difference?
I don't think the African parent situation is as bad as it is in America. I think that's a uniquely American thing, and that's part of the reason there are many subsets of Africa that do better. Maybe not economically, but that's to do with their country and those economies.
I
Um,
I think
but they're morally doing way better.
Yeah, I think where we're not seeing each other at is that like I agree that biology plays a huge role. It's like the most important role in like crime. And I think that if you switch the black babies with the white babies and they're raised by in a good culture and stuff, that changes their biology. Every time you learn something, doesn't that technically changes your biology because it's going into your brain, it's changing how your brain works. So if so like yeah,
Well,
biology, yeah, sure.
there are many reasons why things go awry, but I don't think it's just parenting, and I think culture is a huge thing. Your brain is a huge thing, so you
Um
cannot like just dismiss that as like, oh, it's a minor thing that the entire culture is consumed with violence and criminality
yeah.
and gangsterism. I mean, that's a massive thing. The
Yeah,
fact that
but
you don't have a father, massive.
I just say that like culture is extremely contextual, and it's like so like to hammer that like point in. So it's about the culture. It's not about the actual blackness. Like it's not about
Okay,
the inherent traits.
but why does that give you such relief to say it's not the blackness? The
Because if
black
you're saying that it's
culture is the black culture. So like the
the
people that exhibit that culture, partake in that culture, are black. You're trying to separate the two, going, no, it's the culture, it's not their race.
yeah,
That's
you
like
have to
not.
separate the two. What?
But
Why
why does
don't
that
you
give
want to
you?
separate the
In the
two?
end, it's the
Not
same
getting.
thing.
No, no, no. It's not. It's not because in one
No,
scenario you're saying that it's because they're black. They're born with these traits. They can't change them. But what I'm saying is, if you swap the babies, there it's not the blackness
no,
is irrelevant.
No, he didn't. He's not saying what you
I'm
said.
no, I'm not. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying there's a million ways you can improve your performance, even if you're black or whatever. I mean, we see examples of it all the time. Morgan Freeman's child is going to be okay. Like if a person has a father, if they are if they go to school, if they have values instilled in them, if they have a good job. I mean, if all these factors are lined up, it doesn't matter what they are, they have a way better chance of doing well.
Okay.
Now, having said that, there are biological factors at play that could tilt the scales when it comes to things like criminality, things like performance in life when it comes to intellectual pursuits. There
Yeah.
are restrictions. I mean, look, I'm a chess guy. There's several thousand grandmasters at chess, not that many, like 3,000. Two of them are black. The rest are Chinese, Indian, white, you
Mhm.
know. Now, that's not all because they suck at chess. I mean, most of them aren't playing chess. But like that's not an environmental thing that they're not grandmasters at chess. To some degree it is, minor degree. Like, for example, downhill skiers, most of them are white. That's not because blacks are not as good at downhill skiing, it's because they don't live in those areas traditionally, and so they don't partake in that as a sport. And skiing is expensive, and so that's a barrier as well. So it is both, but ultimately, what we're saying to you is, what does it get you to say it's not their blackness?
Yeah.
Because the
Okay.
end result is they are failing at the rate in which they are.
Everything stays the same. Like,
Mhm.
nothing has changed.
Right. And so what you're saying, I think you're trying to be proactive and figure out solutions, and you hope that the problem isn't they're black and they're screwed. They're always going to turn out like this no matter what. No one's saying that. You know, every factor that we've talked about is still important.
Ye-
Schooling and parenting.
Yeah.
Parenting is extremely.
Exactly. It's massively important. And your code of conduct, your values. I mean, I'm shocked that things like sucker punching and head stomping is acceptable behavior. Or just, the
Dishonorable and cowardly in
right.
other cultures. Yeah.
That to me is an astonishing thing. And if you let that slide, like what else are you going to let slide?
Mhm.
So just similar, it's like not having two parents, not raising your children is totally culturally acceptable
Yeah.
for the
So
most part.
I think we agree, but like we don't agree on the optics. Like I think you agree with me when like we swap the babies, we know that the black babies are gonna be fine. You agree
They have a
with me on
better
that?
chance. They have a better. It's chances. I mean, yes, those elements will help you. If you swap a baby and you're not living in some drug-addled, crime-ridden city, and you have two parents in an affluent place with a good school who are going to teach you morals, yeah, you're going to do better. I mean, where's the dispute there?
Okay. So yeah,
But
yeah.
it's
All right.
it
So
still doesn't mean that you're not going to find some large scale patterns and there will be disparities on things like crime, on things like excelling at school, excelling at an IQ test.
yeah, I don't think there would be if you swap the babies, but that
You don't think
that's
there's okay.
we
You
could.
think that they have you don't think there's going to be an IQ gap if you swap babies and raise them in a better house?
I think generationally, yeah, IQ
What?
is very, very. Wait, look up. Does education affect IQ? It says 1 year of education can affect the IQ 3.3, well, 94, so 3.4 IQ points for just 1 year of education. So if you educate someone at a very young age, it's very
Well, yeah,
effective.
you have to know how to read and write. I mean, when are you giving these IQ tests? But no, the IQ is not meant to test your knowledge or your education. We're testing your capacity to problem solve
Yeah,
and your critical thinking
and when you
skills.
learn stuff, you are increasing that
Yes,
capacity.
at the very bottom end, yes, there will be an improvement if you're
Your
familiar with
brain will
academics.
work more,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, but anything beyond that, it's like, okay, then let's test all people who have had 10 years of schooling, 20 years of schooling. Every stage along the way, you're going to find a massive gap.
Uh,
So this is not like it's not like it's a margin of error issue.
I don't
This
know.
is a large gap.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know how much
What do you mean? It's
because
massively true. What do you mean? Do you realize like half of the criminals I investigate who have committed rapes and murders, the defense typically calls them retarded and says, "Don't kill them because they're a retard." They're like,
yeah.
"We tested their IQ; it's
Oh
65."
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but
Okay.
that's not taking into account like I bet they didn't have 20 years of education. So
Oh my god. Yeah, because they've been having a 65 IQ their whole lives. They
no,
did go to
No,
school.
you know how
no.
many criminals I know that also got expelled from school? They're extremely intelligent, like
Yeah, yeah. So
extremely,
here,
extremely
let me see if you agree with this. So if
Yeah.
you have so let's say we have a black baby, a white baby, all the races, whatever, and
You want me to fuck, marry, kill?
yeah, so we and we have like the same parent, and we raise this kid exactly the same throughout the education system. You think between the races, there's going to be a huge gap between IQ?
Yeah, it will be the exact same gap. You don't understand IQ.
Wait,
You don't understand the
no
brain.
way.
You don't understand what a brain is. It's like saying if you raise three kids from three different parents in the same household, is there going to be a gap in their height? And it's like, well, yeah, it depends on what the code in their genetics was about their height.
I think IQ and shit in the brain is way more variable than like your height.
No, no, it's a physical component, the most important one, that is shaped by millions of years of evolution, and it is what it is. There's some wiggle room in terms of, again, if you're malnourished, you can optimize brain development. You can engage the brain like a muscle, but it still is a piece of hardware that is different from brain to brain. I mean, and from group to group, there are differences. So, like, if you have two geniuses and they give birth to a kid and the kid turns out to be a genius, who is surprised by that? It's not because they're educating him better. It's because he has a better brain.
Um,
Just like athletes, some people are born stronger or taller or faster.
yeah, there's gonna be there's gonna be a bell curve, but I think all the races are gonna have a really similar bell curve.
Okay, but if you're talking about if you, but they don't. That's the whole point.
Yeah,
That's
but
the whole
that's no,
point.
no, no. But that's because
You
my
wish they
hypothetical
did.
doesn't exist. But I'm
If
saying,
Usain Bolt married a sprinter and they have a child, is that child going to be faster on average than some other kid, some Chinese kid? Yes, is the answer. But wait, what
what
if
if they
they
don't
don't
run?
train the child and they didn't give him athletics growing up and
Yes, what if they
they
don't
had him?
run? What if they sat in their
Okay,
chair
then
their whole lives and
right
they've never
then
ran?
then if that environment will have some impact on that kid's capacity to be the best runner he could
He
be,
would
but
stop.
he will still be faster. He will still be
I
faster.
don't. Yeah, I don't think that's
Will
true.
be fast as fuck while young.
I don't think that's it. So if we're
Without
here,
anything.
let's make it like an analogy between like education system and like runners. So like
Mhm.
if you so basically the black like in America a black person and their education is the same as like a black runner who's like born to be fast just sitting on his ass and playing video games and getting super fat. That's kind of like how I see it. If there's no like training in the beginning, your ability to run and your ability to have like a higher IQ and be smart is going to be extremely tempered.
But the thing is, it's like you hear someone say, yes, obviously, if you don't engage the child in physical activities, he's not going to be anywhere near as good as he could be. This is true. This is common sense. It's logical. But just because there is that variability in terms of your environment does not say that there isn't a starting point and a max potential point that is vastly different biologically that cannot be changed. You cannot overcome it.
How would you measure that though? Like how would you measure someone's potential to be a fast runner? Well, just as like how
You,
would you
you,
measure a black person's
you could,
IQ if he doesn't have
but
education? It's going to be way smaller.
you can look. Yeah, there are ways to measure stuff, and IQ is what we're talking about, and that is the way we measure your intelligence. I mean,
Yeah.
Magnus Carlsen's the best chess player in the world. I could study chess the rest of my life. I'm not going to be as good as him because his brain is different than mine.
Yeah, but if he
It's not a
never
matter of potential.
Totally different.
if he played chess when he was
Hmm.
like the first time playing
He,
chess was when he was like 25 then he's going to be a really shitty chess player. So
no, but he was a prodigy as a
Natural.
child, right? So they know that a guy is a chess genius as a child, but let's say he didn't pick up the game until later, he still would be great. Maybe
Or
not as great as he is now, but his brain
the
has that
natural.
capacity.
yeah, I don't
Born.
think you can measure capacities though until the like you can only measure what actually exists. Your capacity to like you can't.
No, but the capacity is an IQ test. You're basically an IQ
Yeah, but
flat earther.
your
You don't understand that IQ is like a science that we have. It's the most important component to a human being is the brain, and we're studying the ability for someone's brain to function to problem solve in the world, and you are denying it like it's pseudoscience.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying it's variable to change.
Yes, but you
So
take
yeah,
that to
that's
mean
not
that the whole thing is
huge
bunk.
No,
number.
I don't think it's bunk. I think IQ is very determinant of like a person's success and like
Right. So,
yeah.
but yeah, it's variable to change to a minor degree.
Very
This
nice.
is the thing. This is like my chess score is what it is right now. That's variable to change to a minor degree. I might move up a couple 50 to 100 points. I'm not going to be moving up 1,000 points and competing for the title next year. Like, you seem to be very satisfied with where there's change, there's opportunity, and I think we're all basically even. So I've forced the people I'm talking to acknowledge that there is some wiggle room around environment, around maximizing potential, and because slight change is possible, that means everything's going to be squashed and everything's even, and that's just wrong. It's just not even close to being true.
Okay.
And I know that you want it to be true. You want all things to be even, and they're just not.
Um.
And even more important, nothing that you said actually will provide any help to black people or make them better in life. Like swapping babies, okay, we can't do that. So how will you help them with the things that you're saying? How will that better them, or give them some information
It's
that
like-
can help them?
But it's like, it's so crazy. It's like, hey, this guy SF we're talking to, you play basketball. Now, you're not the best player you could be. You don't train all your life. We're going to spend the next year training you, and we're going to put you in an environment where you're going to be better at basketball next year than you are right now. So there's some wiggle room. There's some variability. It's subject to change. Does that mean you're going to be in the NBA and compete with LeBron James? No, you will never be able to compete because it's an order of magnitude different when it comes to talent. And you could have all the environment in the world. You have a max potential when it comes to your basketball ability and your ability to compete with other dudes. That's what we're talking about. But you go, wait a minute. Because you can take a guy, train him to play basketball, and he will get better, that means one day he'll probably be as good as LeBron.
Maybe.
So here, I'm just gonna read this. This is from Wikipedia. It says the scientific consensus is that there is no evidence for a genetic component behind IQ differences between racial groups. Growing evidence
So
in
you go to
Don't
so
trust Wikipedia.
you could
so
you could open up the
it's
sources
so
that it
ridiculous.
links. You could open up the sources that it like links in the
So
Wikipedia.
ridiculous. So you've gone to IamRight.com to determine that
Is
there's
I don't think
no
Wikipedia
genetic
is
link?
amight.com. It's pretty reliable.
Yeah, yes. You've gone to a website to cherry pick a quote that supports your narrative on this topic.
No, this quote is like the basically the general summary of what all the sources say.
There's no wait a minute.
But
What is a
come
brain?
on.
What-
I mean,
what-
you
no, no, no,
know
no, no, no.
that
What
that's
is a
not
brain?
true. I mean,
I know it's ridiculous. He's living in a fantasy world. What is a brain? Is it physical?
Yeah, it's physical, but it's subject to change. Like you learn stuff,
No.
new shit happens in your
No.
brain, it changes.
A brain is a physical element. Are
Yeah.
our physical bodies genetic?
Yeah. They're also subject to change.
How do you mean the thing that generates your IQ, the machine in your head, is purely genetic? Now, to say that IQ is not related to genetics is
I didn't say that.
totally
I didn't say
nonsensical.
that. I didn't say that.
What is the quote you just meant?
I think
There's no
it's
correlation.
I think it's saying that like
So all brains are equal. All brains are equal is just how much education you get growing up.
yeah,
That's
it's
the
just
difference.
it's saying between differences between racial groups. It's not saying that there's no genetic component behind IQ. It's just saying differences between racial groups. So it's qualifying it.
Okay, well, that's regressive nonsense, and that's just a statement that's so uncomfortable with the fact. I mean, why do you think? Why do you think there's differences? Why are Asians and Jews?
Asians are.
Why?
Yeah,
I already
for
because
example.
different culture,
Because they have
different
better
education.
environments?
Yes.
No, that's not even.
Humans
we're
are
not sure
very
how
pretty much
Asians-
similar. Yeah.
Better environments.
Yeah. Well, wait. So do you
Oh my God.
disagree with like do you not trust Wikipedia?
As an institution, what do you mean? So if I show you a quote, if it's written somewhere, you're gonna be so impressed with it. That's like, whoa, some
Well-
guy said something. So
well,
that's
I'm
why
not- I'm not just-
appeal to authority.
Should I link you? Because it links like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it links like 9 studies after it says it. I didn't read the studies, but I'm guessing that probably supports what it's saying.
Yeah, and I could probably go through each and every one of those and point to the fundamental premise that they're getting wrong, where they're like, well, race isn't really a strict thing, so we're not going to say that racial differences matter. I mean, it's so beyond common sense to look at the reality of the world, look at the history of all these different groups, their performance in life, not to mention the test results that we run everywhere in every corner of this earth for decades upon decades. And you're sitting here going, there's no difference. There literally is a difference.
Yeah, I know there's a difference
genetics,
now.
It's their brains which are produced through genetics.
Yeah, I know there's a difference now.
Let me ask you something. You know of the Japan Edo era, right? And before that also, when Japan was closed, literally closed to the outside world for 1,000 years, right? You know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
They opened up in like, I don't know, maybe last, maybe 500 years or something like that. They're creating robots. So what environment? They were completely closed off to the outside world.
Just say historical factors, pretty much environment. But like the scientific consensus is that there's no. So if you switch the babies between races, you're gonna get like and you give them an IQ test, you're probably gonna get what I'm saying. Like there's.
So hold on. Let me just understand your worldview. You think that the difference, the ongoing and continual difference in IQ, which is significant from between Asians and Ashkenazi Jews and whites and Hispanics and blacks and Aboriginals, that gap, which is sizable, has nothing to do with physical biology or their actual brain, the hardware structure of their brain.
No.
That has nothing to do with it.
No. All IQ has to do, like everything about you has to do with your genetics, obviously. I'm just saying that when you compare the races, there's not going to be much of a difference.
But there is that the whole point is.
No, there is now, but that's just that's based on the way they came about.
Now and always.
Now and always, yeah. The second we started making these tests.
No, the thing is like the hypothetical that I'm creating can't exist because you can't really do that. But the scientific consensus is that what I'm saying is true.
But you disagree with the scientific consensus. You just spat in the face of what you just read.
How did I disagree?
You're saying there is a genetic component to the differences between IQ between races, and you just read a quote saying there is no genetic component.
No. Yeah, there is no genetic component behind IQ differences between racial groups. So it's just qualifying it between racial groups.
So what are you saying? How are you disagreeing with that?
I'm saying broadly, as humans, there definitely is a genetic component in for IQ, as there is for everything. But in terms of racial groups, there's no.
I'm having trouble understanding. So a black person in Canada, Australia, Great Britain, or South Africa, or Florida walks in to take an IQ test. He will predictably score less. There is a bell curve, there is a spectrum. But that average score is going to be significantly less than people of Asian descent, white descent, Hispanic descent, and Jewish descent. And your answer to why that is it has nothing to do with his brain or his genetic ability to have a high IQ. It has to do with his environment and his education?
No, it does. When you're taking it, like, everything about you has to do with your genetics. So obviously, your IQ has to do with your genetics. But if you take a black person from, like, the UK or Canada, they're going to have a way higher IQ than a black person in, like, the United States, based off of, like, culture and historical factors.
No, they don't. They're not.
That's not true.
Actually,
I'm pretty sure that's true.
No, in some cases it's true, and the reason is because there's white DNA in their lineage. So like half of there's a lot of race mixing in England and also in North America from the slave trade and beyond. And so like Obama's IQ is where it's at because of his white lineage. And so that's why
those numbers I'm sure are extremely low, like not that high.
But American blacks have higher IQs than Africans, for example. And part of that reason is because of the insertion of the white DNA into their bloodlines.
So you're saying that it's how black they are determines, like, it's not their ethnicity. It's like because there are black people in different places that I guess wouldn't have the white DNA that you're talking. Like, I guess, like, if you take a black person from, like, I don't know, like, let's just do like like if you take a black person from Haiti, their country's a shithole. They're probably gonna have a lower IQ than like a black person in the United States, right?
But it has nothing to do with the shithole nature. I mean, they're going to be comparable. I mean,
Yeah, but
you can look it up. Look at the average IQ of a Haitian, and you're going to be like, oh, that's because of something other than their brains.
Well, you agreed and said that like you agree with me when I said that like everything's biology, and when you learn something that literally changes your biology, so now your brain is technically different than it was before.
No,
So
no, you cannot learn. Yes, you can learn and get educated, but this does not change the fabric of your brain.
no, it
Like,
does.
you're still limited. We're talking about the potential of your capacity to learn. I mean,
No, it
it's
does.
not.
It does. If
I
depending on when they're educated, if they're if
one dumbbell.
if
So let me ask you: why is it that black people have run up into this glass ceiling of getting north of whatever their IQ is at, 75, 80? Why not just educate more and then be as smart as Asians and Jews?
because they don't have the same opportunities.
To read and to go to school?
Yes, they
have free
don't.
education.
They're way poorer, and their education systems suck,
They have a free education.
and their
It's-
culture
it's-
sucks too.
It's incredible. You could learn as much as you want. You could go online and take
No,
all
it
the
depends
classes
on
in the
when.
world.
If you learn at a young age, that literally changes your IQ drastically compared to like if you learn when you're older.
I mean, it's unbelievable. It's like, would you dispute that someone with Down syndrome has a low IQ?
No.
Do you think that they have the capacity to learn and just their brain would change their biology if they just read a book?
I don't know. I don't know the specific to like Down syndrome. I don't know if
Can,
teaching
can
Down
you
syndrome.
think your way out of being Downs?
I no. Yeah, no.
Right. So you believe in mental retardation.
Yeah.
Right. So those people cannot educate themselves past being retarded.
Yeah, and people can't educate themselves to being like a super genius, but it's variable to a degree.
So when a criminal black dude says to a judge, "Don't throw me in jail, don't kill me, officer or judge, because I'm a retard. I'm mentally retarded, so we have laws that you can't do that. My IQ is 69."
Mm-hmm.
You're saying that guy is maxed out at 69, and he's not going to get smarter. And he could read all the books he wants. He is limited intellectually.
Yeah, by
Like,
that
this is
age, you probably can't increase your IQ very much. Yeah.
So you think that somewhere along the line, the black community, they're fucking up early and often.
Yes, they don't have
And they're not.
good education. Yeah.
What? But they go to the same schools. I went to school with
Wait.
blacks.
So you're telling me that the education system for the black
Yes,
community
what do you think
is
they're doing in black schools? I mean, they have the same
How
curriculum.
much money they spend
yeah,
on
but
the black schools?
They're dropping out of school. They're not going to the school. They don't prioritize the school.
Don't give a fuck.
wait.
They don't give-
I don't think
not
you agree with this. I don't think you think that the schools in like black communities are just as good at educating as the schools in like white communities. I don't think you think that. There's no way.
They are.
No, they're not. They don't have the same
Hold on.
funding. They don't have the same anything.
Hold on, funding for what? A better school sports?
Yes,
program?
better
They
school
have a
everything.
swimming
Yes,
pool?
resources.
No. The books are generally the same.
No.
And also, what do you mean no?
You can't just say the books are the
In a
same,
black
therefore the
school-
school's the
First of
same.
all, this is massively insulting, and you're being racist to blacks.
Yeah, insulting.
I'm not being
The black
racist.
community is. These schools are run by blacks. The administrators are black. The principals, the school teachers are primarily black, and they give these kids the best chance. Easily, they're giving them a high level of education, especially when you compare it to globally. And you can go to a public school and perform perfectly well and advance your life and move up in the social pecking order. There's nothing stopping them from doing that, and many of them do.
So you
So
don't
it's like,
you don't think that their shitty culture, and you don't think that you think that the schools are pretty much similar to like every other school, and
no, it's that they don't have any desire for their parents are not showing up for these meetings and don't give a shit.
yeah, the culture sucks, and the schools probably suck because the
Okay,
culture sucks
so-
too.
And if I were to tell you, well, then send them to private schools and have the parents prioritize it and have them invest in their children and send them to the better schools or live in a better neighborhood, you'd be like, no, they can't.
Because how are they going to do that? Yeah, I would agree that they should be.
Wouldn't give a fuck. Even if
they
you
should
don't
be in
get
better
100.
schools and in a better culture and prioritize good values. But the problem
Oh,
is they don't have the opportunity to.
But again, now we're changing from IQ to education, which is totally different. But
Well,
do you think
education affects IQ, which was like a crux of
fix it?
yeah.
You, in the most minor way imaginable.
Like
No,
mapping,
look
Yeah.
up. How much does education affect IQ?
Look up IamRight.com. Okay.
No.
How much does education not affect IQ? Why don't you look that up and challenge your own?
Wait, let me. I want to look. I want to
Presupposed
see what happens when I look at that. How much
You're
does
saying a negative.
education not
is not IQ. Like,
not
it's
look at
crazy.
the IQ of a
affect
child if he's
IQ?
tested at like 9 years old, 10, and then his
You know what?
IQ after, I don't know, like 20 years.
No, you know what I think people like this.
Maybe like 5 numbers.
Sure.
5.
I'm not
Well,
talking
you know what I
about
think
like
people
you're
like this-
10 and you're educated and you get like 10 IQ points. I'm talking like you're 1 to 2 and you're educated. That's gonna. It says across 142 effective sizes from 42 data sets involving 600 participants. Blah 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 blah. The beneficial effects of education on cognitive abilities of approximately 1 to 5 IQ points for an additional year of education.
Yeah, so you get red
No,
when you're 1
no,
to 3.
this has been
If you-
studied
if-
a billion ways over, and the numbers always come out the same.
So-
and it has nothing to do with education. I think what it is guys like this, they don't understand. If someone's young, then they go to school, and then they get smarter. I know. They're smarter now, so they have more IQ now, and that's because of the schooling.
Yeah, at a
I
very
think-
young age, education is really important for IQ. Yeah.
IQ test doesn't have anything to do with education.
No, none. It's not like point to this
IQ
country on the
tests
map.
only function is to measure IQ, so obviously not. But education affects IQ. Just like if you train to race, you're gonna get a higher score, and like the timer is gonna measure your lower score of whatever you finish the race. But if you don't train, you're not gonna get the timer's not gonna measure that. So
God. So, and this is the equivalent of saying 100-meter dash is dominated by black athletes. There's biological reasons for it. And you're coming in going, actually, no, I think it's environmental. And here's my proof. When you take a white guy and you don't train him to be a sprinter, he's not as good of a sprinter as if you did train him to be a sprinter. Therefore, if you just trained white guys to sprint more, they would win the 100-meter dash at the Olympics. You don't understand that there is only a small window where you can improve or worsen your situation based off environment, based off training or studying or what you call education. We're talking about your capacity outside of that window, which is much larger and which there are ceilings. You will not rise beyond a certain potentiality that is limited because of the hardware of your brain.
yeah, but your hardware of your brain changes if you're exposed to different things at a very young age.
You're acting like people are X-Men. Your brain is not.
This is
remembering
science,
every time you
though.
learn
This is
something.
science. Like you can't just disagree with science and say I'm
You're a
right.
science denier. This is. You're the one trying to say there's magic, and
I'm not saying it's magic.
you're saying that if you learn something, that means your brain
No.
is now bigger or better, and your IQ is now bumped up, and you can just bump it up until there's no gap in IQ.
But you agreed with that. You agreed with that. Well, you agreed with some of that.
Rewire their brain.
You agreed that like when you learn stuff, your brain changes, your biology changes. So yeah, your brain does change. And when you're educated at a very young age, let's say 1 to 3 years could potentially lead to 15 IQ point difference.
So I'm just
It's
fascinated.
not
now.
that much, but let's
That's a
say
lot.
it's true.
That's a lot. That's the difference between. Isn't that like the difference between like black IQ and white IQ or
Extremely
something?
low it is, yeah, but I don't know if that's true or not. But I don't know.
You could look it
I
up.
know that where, I mean, today there are so many sources I don't.
Yeah, look
trust,
up the
like,
consensus. You need to look up the consensus.
So in your world, like, if someone's 20 and they did a little college, but they're out of college, and they have an IQ, we test it, and it is what it is. It's 70 or 75, and you go, you know what? If you go back to school another year, it's probably going to be an 80 next year.
No.
Yeah, what the fuck?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Like, So you're saying it's done. You're done once you're out of adolescence, and that's just your IQ.
No, it's not adolescent. It's like 1 to 3 years old. If you're 1 to 3 years old and you're educated,
Oh,
Doing that?
no one's educated at 1 to 3.
read to, talked to, your parents give you good like shit. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
it's
the prenatal care, like
lunatic parents don't do that. But
so. Once you're north of 3 years old, there's no helping. Your IQ is set.
Yeah, it becomes more and more set. Yeah.
And so you think you're just saying black people are just failing at child raising from 1 to 3, and if only they could read more to their
how do you fix
toddler.
it?
Yeah, I'm saying, and you agree with this, that their culture is fucked up, probably because of, I mean, you think that it's because of race, but I think it's because of, like, historical and cultural, well, I just say cultural, historical factors.
It's a lot of stuff. What do you mean?
Let me ask you something. What exactly in their historical and what fucked their culture?
Probably slavery. I mean, you could look at different black cultures. You could look at different black, you could look at different black cultures. You could look at black culture, you could look at black culture in US, you could look at black culture in UK. They're going to be very, very different.
But it's the same.
It's
The crime stats in London are the exact same as in America. It's like 1350, similar numbers.
okay.
They do badly over there too.
Like the Roman Empire, everybody was like.
Wait, you think that people raised today in the 21st century, you're blaming their inadequacies on slavery?
I mean, that's really.
Well, no, I'm not blaming it all on slavery. I'm saying that's a
But
leading.
what about Haiti? What about Haiti?
Yeah, they also have shitty. Like, you're trying to say that it's just the fact that they have this ethnicity, that's because that is what made the country the way it is. I'm saying it's probably a bit
Why is
of.
Haiti's IQ what it is? I mean, you're telling me they have shitty schools in Haiti now?
Yeah, they probably do. Don't they? Aren't they like a shithole country?
But yes, but why? What
Yeah.
do you think they're doing in these schools? So like, there's nothing going on. Like these
Yeah, not good education.
Shitty country for a long
Okay.
time, and our schools were always good. Always good schools.
I want to ask you a question. The average,
10.
what do you think the average IQ in Haiti is?
I have no idea. 95.
Okay, it's 67.
Holy shit.
Now, let me ask you the average IQ in Iceland. Average IQ in Iceland.
90. I don't know. I'm just gonna say 90.
101.
Okay.
So do you think? I guess in Iceland, from years 1 to 3, they're just speed reading books at their little toddlers. I mean, do you think that the education system of Haiti is so inept that, like, first of all, nobody's educating 1, 2, and 3-year-olds at all?
I mean, that's
Aside from like a cat says meow, it's like brains are not going to be influenced in any large degree by the nursery rhymes you're telling a 3-year-old.
Yeah, but then that just disagrees with science. Like, that disagrees with research.
I just read you the stats and these massive,
No,
talking about millions
stats
of
don't.
people.
Stats don't say, like, you could
Yeah.
read a stat, but that doesn't tell the picture. You need to
Okay,
like
so
do
so
research.
why is China's average IQ 105 and Taiwan's is 104, and I go down and oh my god,
China is
when
pretty shitty. I mean, generally,
why
ordinary people.
why is Liberia 67 and St. Lucia is 62 and Cameroon is 64?
Yeah, I mean,
And
like
you're
you-
just
you could-
scrambling for excuses on all
No,
these
I'm-
things, and it's like obvious.
I'm not. You could ask me these questions. I'm gonna say I don't really know, like what goes into these countries and why they are the way they are. You probably have to read a history book. I didn't read the history book, but I know from the scientific consensus that IQ is very variable at a very young age.
I mean, it's like
I mean, Chinese starved for a long time, not long ago. So, I mean, you know that much.
it's so crazy. It's almost like you're saying people of color or black people around the world don't give a shit about their kids or their kids ending up being smart or education at all.
Wait, so
Like if it was so easy to just make a kid have 100 IQ, don't you think they'd do that?
wait, what?
They don't.
Like-
You act like it is relatively easy to match the performance of education or environment that Iceland offers. Why does not a single black majority country institute these things? Don't you think they love their kids? Wouldn't they want their kids to grow up as smart and functional as possible? Why are they growing up to have 67 IQs?
Because their
we
culture
would
sucks.
do
And they
it.
probably don't.
It's that easy.
Or is it because their parents have 67 IQs and don't know how to do this shit?
Yeah, that's a part of it. But that's
what is the
that's
secret
like, it's a
sauce? I mean, this
cycle,
is
and that's based
you're
on
living in
historical
a
factors.
fantasy.
No,
What historical factor? These people love their kids. Why wouldn't they raise them? This gap is enormous.
wait. So you're telling me
105 in China.
are you telling me that like you have a normal baby who's born and you give them no intellectual stimulation and they're gonna have the same IQ when they grow up as they would have?
Yes,
if
yes.
they
So,
were
but
stimulated?
what do you? These black families give stimulation to their children.
No. Wait. Answer the question.
They do a lot of it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but what about to my question? Like, if a baby's born, there's no intellectual
Yeah.
stimulation. Do you think that they're
That's
gonna?
not happening.
I'm not asking if it has. This is
Okay.
hypothetical.
Uh-huh.
Would they have the same IQ if they're not stimulated at a very young age? Would they have the same IQ as a
No,
person that
it
is
wouldn't.
stimulated?
Their IQ would not be as likely to be as high as it could be if you're in some stunted, retarded situation. Like if the baby's malnourished, if the baby has no interaction whatsoever, is not engaging their mind, then yes, they'll be less.
Yeah, aside from
that
those
is-
extremes, if you go a little bit further and you're like, okay, they give a little bit of shitty stimulation, it's not very good, their culture sucks, they don't really value education or anything like that.
Yes.
Their
But
IQ
see-
is going to be shittier than like a baby who is very stimulated.
What I'm suggesting to you is that your excuses are poor and pathetic and run out of steam. You try to say that it's something about slavery in the history of America. When I point to you that every black country has the exact same pattern, you're like, oh, well, I haven't studied those, but I'm sure there's something there. And I'm suggesting to you that you are chasing a rainbow. There's nothing here. Those people love their children and would do anything to give their children the best chance in life. If you said, hey, if you just did these 3 things to help your child from 0 to 3, they're going to grow up to be 100 IQ. Versus if you don't do these things, they're going to have a 60 IQ. It's like, don't you think they would have done that at any point in the past 1,000 years?
It's not just
In
a thing
any
that
of
you
these
just
countries?
think about and just do.
Like you are suggesting a level of incompetency and just like negligence on such a grand historical scale. First of all, it's a laughable idea to start with, but like, look at the overwhelming amount of evidence. Like, go country by country, and the same numbers appear. I mean, this is a chart of average IQs by nation that I found. I don't know how this works into your worldview.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
I mean, India, the average IQ is 82.
Wait,
They
so,
have a lot of problems there too. I mean, they're not doing
so
great.
if you take like a subsection of a country, like that's doing really well, that has a black community and their IQ is like really high, what would you say about that?
I would say that it's funny that you would go to that example because that's exactly the opposite that we see in the real world. But yeah, I would
There are no
ask.
black communities that have like are
What did
educated
they
enough
do
high.
in past?
So like in America, for example, the average IQ of Americans is where it's at. The average IQ of black Americans is lower. The black IQ is lower the average IQ of Americans. You're asking the exact inverse of that, which I would suggest is like, okay, well, maybe there's a group of blacks who are high IQ, who are having families and intermarrying among
past.
high IQ people.
Past.
That's possible. We know that there are blacks who are smarter than whites. We know that. This is the bell curve. There is overlap. We have stupid-ass white people. I mean, this conversation would be so much easier if we just eliminated blacks, because obviously you have guilt about slavery. And if we just talked about stupid whites and smart whites, the exact same logic applies. And yet, I don't think there'd be much pushback. You'd be like, oh yeah, I understand that white guy has an IQ of what it is, and that it is his brain.
So you,
It's like, mhm.
so yes or no, do you agree with the research?
The research that you have hand selected that
I didn't hand
suits your
select
narrative.
it. I didn't
No,
hand select it. It's like,
I agree with the research I just gave you, which is that these are the average IQs of these different countries.
yeah, but that doesn't.
No.
That's like a correlation causation error. Like you can't just correlate because this country has a lower IQ and they're black. The blackness must be a reason that they have low IQ.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying the people of China have this average IQ.
Yeah, but it's not because they're Chinese. Like you can't just correlate.
It's because the brains of the people in that country produce that result on those tests.
Yeah, how do you
Yeah,
know
he
it's not
does-
the culture?
You
How do you
don't need a
know what I
reason.
said?
Color.
It's not culture.
Yeah, how do you know it's not what I said?
Because Chinese people in America have higher IQs on average.
Yeah, but that
syncs
could
up
be
with the average IQ.
Couldn't that be a correlation causation error? Couldn't you just be
No,
correlating?
no, it's all around the world. It's nothing to do with Chinese culture. Chinese people in America or in Canada have the same average IQ.
Let's say all black countries have low IQ. Is that true? I don't even know. But
yes, look at it.
It is, yeah.
So are you just saying that it's because of the people there? It's not because of their how their country is developed?
Well, put it this way: why is it that black people in better countries score the same on these tests?
What do you mean? What do you mean? Because I already said that like there are wealthy, educated black communities and there are stupid, non-educated black communities, and they're probably not scoring the same on IQ tests. Like the IQ of like a Nigerian is probably different than the IQ of like
not
a black American.
You think IQ is correlated with wealth?
With what?
With wealth? You think if you're rich, you're going to be smarter?
I think that's one of the like if you're born in a wealthy family, you're more likely to have.
If you're smarter, you're going to be rich. That's the actual cause and effect. It's not.
That's not
the
even
other way
true.
around.
Like Trump isn't that smart.
If you're smarter,
Trump is dumb as fuck.
Wait, you don't agree that if you're smarter, you have a better chance of being rich?
Oh yeah, you're more likely to.
Of course, that's true.
Yeah, I already agree with that. I said IQ is like a determinant of success.
Right, but everything you're hoping for, which is like, I think it's just a coincidence that African nations score lower, and it's probably the environment there or their bad educations.
Well,
then why is it that people from that race in other countries score the same?
Well, you're asking questions, but you haven't established a causation. Like you haven't done any research.
It's the brain of those people. The results.
You haven't done any research. All the research says the exact opposite, and you're just saying that just based on black countries have lower IQ, therefore black people are lower IQ.
No, people of that ethnic background, that racial group, regardless of the country, score this way on these tests around the world. How is that not the research? That is the facts. This happens all the time, and it always comes out the same way.
That doesn't prove that group of people has a low IQ because they're just born that way, or because of the country that they're in.
I told you it's any country. It's the same result from any country.
No, even if
blacks in France will score this way.
Even if every black country had like a super low IQ, you still couldn't do that unless you do research.
So you think now you're a conspiracy theorist. You think there's some massive conspiracy that's holding back the performance of blacks on IQ tests all around the world.
No, I'm just going by research.
Well, this is the research. Why do you ignore the test results? The results are staring at you right in front of your face.
You can't just read You can't just read raw data and say that this is the reason this raw data exists. That's not how science works.
Tell me, what is the reason?
What is
your reasoning? Why?
What is beyond this? It's the obvious conclusion.
All I can say, I can't tell you what the reason is because we don't know for sure, exactly what determines IQ.
Why do you think?
But we know
why do you think the reason? The reason you score a certain way on an IQ test that is meant to measure your intelligence, the reason is that is what your intelligence is.
Yeah, I agree.
And we've tested it a million times.
I agree,
culture and that they're poor and colonized, etc. Right? That is what you want to say.
Yeah.
To be honest.
I agree that you take an IQ test, you get an IQ, that's your IQ. And if a black country does that, that's the population's average IQ too. But what's not being established is whether their IQ is because they're in that country and they have a different set of values and standards, or because their ethnicity is the reason they have that IQ.
But it's so weird.
To put it simpler,
like workaround of language. Look, you say the ethnicity is the reason. No, people of that ethnicity test their IQ, and this is the average.
Yeah.
The reason is the brains of the people from that racial group yields this result on these tests over and over again.
Yeah, I agree with that. But you agreed that your environment changes your biology too.
In a minor way, on the edges, it can change things. On a minor way, in the same way that you would be a better chess player if you trained, or a better sprinter if you trained to sprint. That doesn't mean you're going to be competitive with people, because your capacity to be a sprinter or a chess player is limited. And it can be studied and quantified.
And again, SF, I brought you the world wars. So why didn't Europeans become dumb if it's environment? Europe devastated, they poor as fuck, hunger everywhere. They're really building their cities back with hand. Why didn't they go retarded?
Hold on. Let me ask a question here. Do you want all racial groups to have the same IQ? Would that make you feel better?
I don't know if I could put a one. Like, if everyone had a high IQ, sure, yeah, that would make me feel better. But that's not possible because
So
there's always
let me
going to
ask
be
you
different.
this.
Yeah.
Would you want all racial groups in America and beyond to be performing at a similar level of human excellence, of human functionality?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is your want. This is the emotional carrot that is dangling in front of you, which everything else gets reverse engineered
Okay, you
to
can't
justify
do
this
that.
fantasy of yours.
You can't
No,
say
but
that
this is.
everything I
No,
said
but
doesn't
here's
make any
here's what I'm saying. Let me showcase you the difference. I don't care what racial group
I
has
don't
what
either.
IQ.
I don't
I
either.
don't care.
Wait, wait,
No,
wait,
so
wait,
I'm
wait, wait, wait.
observing
Actually,
the
yeah, you
facts.
do. You do care.
No, I don't.
You don't want
I don't care.
want the average person to have a high IQ.
No, I have no dog in this fight. I'm observing what is true. If someone said to me, Jews have lower IQ than whites, I'd be like, oh, okay, is
Yeah,
that
I
what the
would
study
too.
shows? Okay,
Yes,
cool.
I would too. But let me ask you the same
I,
question you asked me. Do you want the average person, the average human, to have a high IQ?
no, I don't want anything when it comes to IQ. I'm observing what is and reflecting on what
Do you
is.
think a high
You are
IQ is
trying to
good?
will reality into being what you want it to be.
No, I'm
I don't
not.
want reality to be something that you want it to be. I understand and accept that there are differences in IQ between races. I
I do
understand and accept
too.
history. I have a degree in history. So why do you think some groups developed written language, some didn't? Some groups invented the wheel, others didn't.
Yeah,
Agriculture, etc.
I'm not
Why does some
claiming to have an answer, but what I am saying is that you can't say that it's the ethnicity because there's nothing to back that up. You're just using correlation to equal
Everything
causation.
is backing that
wait a
up.
minute. Everything backs that. Wait a minute. You're telling me why did the Aboriginals not invent skyscrapers and airplanes and travel to the moon? And you're like,
Real.
and you're like, it's not the ethnicity. No, it's not the
Yes, you
ethnicity.
can't
It's
say
the
that. You can't just say
brains.
that.
It's I'm not saying that. I'm
You could
saying it's
say
the
it's the
brains of the
brains.
people in that ethnic group.
Yeah, you could say it's the
The brains of
brains, but brains are subject
yes.
to your environment. So, again, you
What?
can't just establish that it's
Subject to what
ethnicity.
degree? What part of the environment is affecting your brain?
Already, every part of the environment affects your brain. You could be shot in the
No.
face, and your brain is mush.
If you
That affects
if
your
you take
brain.
an aber
Bro, I mean, do you not know the history
uh,
of Europe, like before they discovered America, like the Crusades,
I'm not
like
claiming to know the
Europe
history.
was
I'm only
carnage,
claiming
like
to
literally
say
like
that this one thing
destruction.
that you're trying to say isn't established. It's just correlation.
I want to say that the environment was shit. It was shitty as hell.
Yeah,
Like,
I know. I'm
peasants
like
in
you.
Europe lived for like 40
You could
years,
give me
30
every
years, then
example in
died.
the world, but nothing like that could be their culture. That could be anything.
but I'm trying to
They
get to a
create
larger
their
point.
culture.
Look, you're going through a bunch of mental gymnastics to try
Yeah, you're
to
going into
paint the world
circles.
in a way that is not accurate
No,
and like
I'm
spits
going
in the
by
face of all the
research.
data. No, you're wishfully thinking, going through like ultra progressive, white guilt stained pseudoscience that is hopeful that their IQ ain't a thing. This is not going to age well for you.
No, I
IQ
think
is a
IQ
thing.
is a
It's a
thing. You're selling it to me.
well-researched science, and every study shows that there's massive gaps between racial groups when it comes to
Yeah, I
IQ.
agree with that.
My point is, you agree. My point is, the reason why you are twisting and bending into all these irrational positions is because you want the world to be a way that it is not. There's a gap between those two states. And
Okay, can I
for
ask you a
what I'm
question?
telling you, yeah,
Okay, so is a high IQ is that a virtue?
no, it's a
It
reality.
is
It's
what
a
it
fact
is.
about
It's
your brain.
So
like
like having an high IQ isn't good. It's
No,
not.
it's
it's
commendable. It's
good
something
for
that
the
it's
person
better
who
for you.
has
Yeah,
it, but it's
It,
it's actually you don't get too much credit for it because it's just your brain. It's like you're trying harder. It's just
yeah, nobody
it's
gives a fuck.
yeah, it's just who you are. It's what you were gifted with. It's like saying the 7-footer who's dunking, is that good or bad? It's like, well, it good
yeah,
for him
like
if he
being
can
an
make money
athlete,
dunking.
being athletic is
Low
a
IQ
virtue.
is
These are
bad, for
virtues.
example.
What were you saying?
Like being athletic and having a high IQ, these are all virtues. I don't know why would anyone disagree with that.
What do you mean virtue?
Like
No,
these are
it's
good things to have. You would agree with
Good
that?
things to have.
Yeah.
Yes, it's an advantageous thing to have a high IQ and
Yeah.
to have athletic prowess. Correct.
Yeah, so you can't say that I'm just working by the lens of like IQ is good, therefore I'm just gonna argue that like everybody has. I'm just gonna deny everything and just say IQ doesn't because black people have a low IQ. Like I'm not gonna do
No,
that.
you are denying the reality that there are hard gaps, like cemented in hardwired gaps when it comes to IQ and capacity between racial groups,
Yeah, but
between human beings. It's like, again, everyone gets so their panties caught in a bunch when you compare racial groups. Smart whites versus non-smart whites. We can do that comparison.
Yeah,
There-
exactly. The
It's
same.
like it's the same friggin'
yeah,
thing.
but I already agree with like I agree there's a large IQ gap between blacks and black Americans and white Americans.
Okay.
Um,
But you wish that there wasn't, and therefore
of
you're hoping to
course,
God
dude,
it has
come on.
nothing to do with genetics
I
or
never
nothing
said
that
that. I never said it has nothing to do with genetics. I just said
you said it's
you're
environment.
genetic you're born with a set of traits and those traits
Mhm.
are like malleable. Your genetics
To
like
what degree?
and
To what
research agrees with
degree?
me. The consensus agrees with me
Right,
that
but
yeah.
this is no, it's not. It's malleable in a very minor way.
No 15 IQ points isn't a minor.
I totally disagree with the idea that you could change your IQ 15 points just by willing it into being.
That's what
This is
research
not
says
what we
though.
see.
That's the
No, it's not.
consensus. Yeah, it
So
is.
so why so why is Black America and the entire Black world just try harder and then match the IQ of the whites of the world?
Because you can't
And then
change
we
a
would
culture by just telling them to try harder.
oh so the culture, but you're saying it doesn't matter what you do after 3 years old anyway. This is your very bizarre
Yeah, you're.
view
Yeah,
of IQ and brain
wait.
development.
I'm being
Does any of this pass the sniff test to you? I mean, why do you think Africans didn't invent written language? And I'm not talking about Egyptians.
And they're not black. But
do you think it's because they're black? Their ethnicity?
I'm asking
matter,
you.
they're
Okay,
black.
if you're
They can
asking
be
me,
No,
I'm gonna
listen,
say I don't know, because I truly don't know. But what you can't say is that it's because they're African. You could
but
say
Africans didn't
that
invent language.
like oh like you could say that Africa didn't have like the resources or whatever
Oh
for
God!
humans
For
to
God's
develop
sake.
and
Who had
develop language.
resources
But you
back
can't just say
then?
it's because
They did.
they're
empires.
it's their ethnicity. Because I already told you if you swap the babies and you take African babies and you go put them in like very rich high valued white households, they're going to be just as good as just every other person, every other white person there. So you can't just say
So,
that it's race.
but you're aware we've done studies on this. So like
Yes, I
twin
am.
studies
I've been
and
citing
there's
them.
studies where people get put into great environments. Their IQ is unchanged.
They-
The IQ is your IQ, and so
Yeah,
the
but it has to
environment
be at birth.
doesn't matter.
It has to be at birth. Because
Yeah,
it's like it's
at birth,
1 to 3 years. Yeah, you can't just take like if you take me and put me in a different environment, I'm not just gonna like get 100 IQ points smarter because they're wealthy or whatever.
So this magical formula of what you're supposed to do for a 0 to 3-year-old somehow has eluded billions of black people throughout all of human history. And you apparently don't even know what you're supposed to do, but you just generally throw out the word culture and say if you just tried harder, you'd have the same IQ as white people. It doesn't make sense. This is not
you agreed
the
with
way
me,
the
though.
world is.
You agreed with
No,
me.
I agree with the idea, which you then, it's like a Trojan horse. The idea that there's some level of maneuverability on the fringes of anything, whether it's your sprinting ability, your chess ability, or your IQ, yes, a minor amount has environmental
like
factors.
really,
3
really
to 15.
minor.
Right, but the
Okay.
the main story here and the overriding thing that is instructive as to how well you're going to compete in the world intellectually, it is your hardware of your brain, which comes from your genetics.
Yeah, but you agreed that your environment changes the hardware of your brain.
Right, and it's a scale thing.
Not
It's like
a big.
less than 1%, and this
Wait,
is
wait.
what we're talking about.
It's not less than 1%. You know that because if you take a baby and you don't give them any intellectual stimulation, they're going to be a retard, right? So it's not just
It's
1%.
again, I use these examples, and it's like you would be
Also,
a better
like-
sprinter if you trained to be a sprinter for the next year. Yes. Is there a cap to how great of a sprinter you're going to be? Yes. Is that cap come from your biology? Yes, it does. Like, I don't understand the.
You can't change that biology. That's the point.
Yeah,
No
you
matter
can't
what-
change your biology, but your environment changes your biology. You yourself can't change it, but
Well,
there's a massive
let's
limit
say
on
that
it.
is true on the huge
There-
scale. You know how many generations are needed? It's bullshit that it's one generation. That's not possible, because if that was true, I mean, a lot of country would change in one generation of a good time. They have like a good
I,
time ahead.
So you think that the whole world has been waiting for your genius take on the development of human brains, and even though, hundreds of thousands of years have gone by, we've only recorded history for a small percentage of that. We've seen the results play out of all these different groups and all their average IQs, and it plays out exactly as we would have expected, based off the viewpoint of myself and Vlad. But you are saying, no, we're only just a couple tweaks away from changing all those babies, all their brains, all of their intellectual capacity can rise up and be completely competitive, if not surpass, other groups like Asians, Jews, and whites. And there's something preventing them from doing this. Why don't you do a TED Talk and tell these people to do whatever you're suggesting they do, and then everyone's IQs will be the same?
I don't need to, because they're already, like, I didn't come up with this idea. Research came up with this idea. And you're saying,
Oh my God.
I'm not saying all black people are the same. There are black people in different, wouldn't all black countries have the same IQ if black people are just the same?
No, there's differences between black people.
Oh, so like, okay, ethnicity.
Yeah, like for example, South
Same as in
Africa.
white. I mean,
Yeah.
South Africa has a higher IQ because of the whites in South Africa and the
Okay,
whites in the bloodlines there.
So, do you
But
think I could
generally
find a
they're
white country
similar.
that has a lower IQ than a black country?
Is there a country that has a lower IQ than a black country?
Yeah.
like a white country.
No, it's going to be Hispanic or Middle Eastern. It'll be the next one. Djibouti? Oh, that's black. Hold on, I'm looking. It's Sri Lanka has 79, which is Nepal has 78, Qatar 78. So yeah, it's Middle Eastern. It's going to be a while before you get to a European country.
And if we take those babies and we put them in white families that have good culture or whatever, they're still going to be dumb as shit.
Yeah, they're going to be limited by their brains. I don't
Their
know
IQ
why you think
won't change.
if you're getting
They won't be dumb.
Right.
You
This can-
mix
but-
dumb and IQ.
he thinks that if you're being well fed and you're having nursery rhymes read to you and
Good
you're singing
school.
songs, right, and you've got the best diapers in the world, all of a sudden your brain is just enhanced. It's not how it works.
You can be well educated and still have like not good IQ, not high IQ.
But what's crazy is like
normal
America is the perfect example to refute your claim. America is not one of these other African nations.
Part of every.
It is compared to the global standards, it is first world, and these people have a great standard of living and a great education compared to everything else, and yet their IQs are still low.
Yeah, America started from slavery, it was Jim Crow and stuff.
What
That
the
would
hell?
probably
None of that
affect
stuff
it.
exists.
Chinese were slaves
Wait a minute.
as well.
90% of the
What about
IQ tests have come way after Jim Crow and
Yeah,
slavery,
but
if not all of them.
that has
So what-
has an effect on the culture.
What effect?
They're poor as shit.
Again,
Do you think they're just...
So,
What do you mean,
since
so?
when does your what
If they're
does your
poor as
wealth
shit,
have
they
to
probably
do with your
have shittier
IQ?
values,
I
and they're probably
hold
got
on, what
not gonna instill those values in their kids. They're probably...
What does your wealth have to do with your IQ?
If you're a wealthy family, you probably value education. You said that
So-
if you're
what?
higher IQ, you're more likely to be successful. They're
Yeah.
yeah. The
IQ
reverse
doesn't
is
have
true,
any
too.
education.
No, but yeah, if you're wealthy, it doesn't have any bearing on if your kid's going to be smart or not.
Well, if you're wealthy, you're more likely to be the type of person who values education and values.
Okay, but education is not IQ. Again, you smash those two
Well,
things
okay,
together.
when
you
I say
conflate-
education, I think you think I'm talking about like the education system. I'm talking about like at a young age, educating your child, like reading them stories and stuff.
You
I
can
mean,
be
apparently
poor
you
as
think that's the
fuck and
secret
do
sauce. I mean, you have to put a TED Talk and tell Africa and the rest of the black world
that to
that
read more.
read books to their babies, and all of a sudden they're going to have 100 IQ.
I mean, bro, come on, you can't
I mean,
think
you can't-
it's that
it's not-
simple.
it's
like
just-
No, but
everybody
I
would
bet
do
you-
it.
I bet you this dude is
Wait,
into
what's
gaming
the
and he's into anime and he's into like fantasy realms. Like this is a
I'm
fantasy.
into that.
what's the average IQ of the black person in America? Is it? I don't know what it is.
What are you saying? The average IQ of a black in America?
Yeah.
I think it's 75 something. Let me black
75.
IQ in America.
So
Hold on, let me see. It might be 80. Let me see. It's hard to find because a lot of people
I think it
bullshit on
was
these numbers.
75
I mean, we could
last
just go with
time I heard.
75. Let's say the average IQ of a white person is 90. So
It's
Yeah.
100.
what
Around.
research says is that very, very early like education can increase your IQ by 3 to 15 points. So technically, if we were to be really generous, I mean, this is also determined like how like how likely you are to like receive the education is probably subject
Okay,
to your biology too.
let's examine those 3 to 15. What? How do we not know that the 3 is actually any normal person will level up that much, and 15 is only the genius people, the high IQ people will rise that much with education. So it doesn't really matter at all. They would still have high IQ. You understand what I'm saying?
Not really.
Like if you bring, I don't know, an average IQ
Oh, no, but
kid to education, and how do we know which kid will raise for 3 and which for
You
15?
don't. That's based on your probably your biology. Like how many
There
points
you
you're going to
go.
increase by is also
The
probably based on your biology. But there's no biological differences between the IQs of races. So like that
kid that
capacity
will
of how much
have
you're going to
higher
increase,
IQ
there's
will raise
no
it for 15 maybe. And the kid who will have lower IQ will raise it for 3. So it doesn't matter, it all stays the same with
just because
education as
the
well.
average IQ of like a black person, say it's 75, that doesn't mean that when they were a baby they're only going to raise by like 3 points. They could have raised by 15 points, and they could just be 90 IQ
Do you
because
have
they
a
could have had
study
the
on that
capacity.
that says that?
Because yeah, I mean, there's always going to be biological constraints, but within 15 it's variable, and I don't know if there's any evidence that there's like, and research says that there isn't, that based on ethnicity, that there's like a determined capacity, like an average capacity that you're going to be, like there's no causal relationship between that.
Well, like the bottom line is that no matter what you say, you don't deny the gap.
Yeah,
The
I don't
gap is
deny the
there,
gap.
and it has real impact on the world and on the results that these people's lives turn out being.
Yeah.
So like that's what's happening. You diving into how and why, and you can have all the disagreements you want. What matters
Doesn't
is
matter at all.
these people are operating with these IQs, and on a mass global scale, you're going to see results. You're going to have countries like Haiti and Zimbabwe and Liberia, and you're going to have the performance of the black community in England and America. It's going to be seriously less on average, and you're going to see this kind of failure. The crime rate is only one aspect of this. You're going to see it in many other ways, and for anyone to blame anybody but those people, you should be judged on your actions, and they're taking the actions that lead to these results. And
Yeah.
why is it anyone else's job to fix them, to make excuses for them?
You're not helping them, you're hurting them, basically.
Yeah, so this is my whole problem with all your content. You're basically making it seem like there's no solutions at all. They're just this ethnicity, they're shitty people, they're not going to be able to.
What?
It gives them
Their
That's your
solution
brain
in every
saying that.
video.
That's your brain
Meaning
saying that.
starting with parenting and
Yeah.
a lot of other things.
First of all, it's not my job to fix them. Second of all, I'm just commenting on
But he is.
atrocious moral behavior that's going on. And I've said time and time again, yes, parents would matter. Yes, if they stayed in school, stop committing crimes. Have a moral code, for fuck's sake.
Like,
You know,
why
it's-
not
Yeah, but
shame
what
them?
creates the
What's
moral
wrong with
code
that?
It's
is
totally
the
unacceptable.
environment.
No, our laws and our society, and culture. Their culture's shit.
Yeah, it's environment. It's not like your biology. You're just born a bad person. It's your environment. So you should be arguing to change the
You
environment.
again go
But see,
into
again,
like,
yeah. When have I ever
It
said they're
doesn't
born bad
matter.
people? Yeah, it's just ridiculous. It's like
Well, what you said logically follows to that. You said that IQ leads IQ and testosterone leads to crime.
Yep.
Black people inherently have high testosterone and low IQ, so they're always going to be lead to crime. But what I'm saying is,
No,
that's not
I'm
necessary.
saying-
no, that's not
see,
true.
no, but he's framing it and putting words
That's
into my
not
mouth.
what he's saying.
If I say higher testosterone and lower IQ leads to more of a likelihood that that person will be criminal, that's a non-controversial fact that everyone agrees with, including you.
Yeah, I know, but when you
This
compare it,
This would apply to white people. I will say white males will always be more criminal than white females. I will say young men, white men, will always be more criminal than older white men. This is
You
true.
can
I will say
still
dumb,
make sure
low
not to do it.
I will say low IQ white young men will always be more criminal than high IQ white men. And you don't have a problem with that because you're like, oh, well, those are just facts that he's saying about his own race, so it's not a big deal. The second I apply the exact same logic interracially, you freak out.
no, it's not. It's
And I'm-
not that. No. It's not that you say that. It's that you say that, but you don't say anything else. You don't say, "Oh, it
What am I
could be
supposed to
their
say?
environment." It's not just their IQ
It's not
and
their
their
environment.
testosterone.
It's not. Oh, God damn.
It's not. It's only in part their environment. I hold
Wait,
them responsible
no.
as human beings
Also,
who have
they
the capacity
create
to
their
choose.
own environment.
No,
I
but-
mean,
Look, it doesn't matter. Jeffrey Dahmer had a bad environment growing up. It doesn't matter. If you commit a crime, we're judging you. You are a moral agent with free will. And if you decide to do something, we're putting it on you. There can be explanatory factors out the wazoo. Doesn't matter. You are to be condemned and chucked in jail.
Wait,
So-
you don't even believe in free will. I thought you did. Like your
no,
biological.
Technically, I'm saying, free will, you have choice. So this is how our legal system operates. You are a sentient being that is making a choice, and we are judging you off your behavior, an action you chose to do.
Yeah, but I don't even know where to go with this. Like from what I heard you say, it sounded like you were saying there's not like when I hear you talk, I know this isn't what you think, but when I hear you talk, it feels like you're saying
That's you strawmanning me. Yeah, you're projecting.
No,
these are
well, you
thoughts
can
in your
present-
head that you're attaching to me.
Well, also I think you have wrong ideas too. Like you
Oh, what's
don't
my wrong
agree that you could have a 3 to 15 IQ.
So IQ is nothing. IQ is nothing.
I never
and for
said
some
you're
reason,
strawmanning
for
me.
thousands
What?
of years, IQ is nothing. That's your stance.
No, I never said
IQ
that.
is just you can close any gap in IQ if you just try.
I never said that either. It's only 3 to 15.
Well, those are the gaps. If you can close 15, then you could be up there with the whites and the Asians.
Yes, you could. That's my point.
But they can't.
You
And
can.
you're wrong. Then why don't you do it?
yeah, why
what do you mean,
why
you be
don't
smarter?
any one of us do it?
Because
Yeah, why don't
a
we all do
single
it?
person can't just be like, can you educate? Like when I'm a baby, I can be like, can you sing me nursery rhymes and read me books and stimulate me intellectually?
We can
so
do
that I
with
can have higher
our
IQ?
children, but it
Like,
won't
And
work.
you're
can't
really
do that.
holding on to this idea that it's from 0 to 3, and that's all that matters.
I was just saying one thing. I was just saying in terms of like your IQ is variable change. It's not just set in stone. So the gap between blacks and whites actually could be reached. It could be.
And
filled.
what's your timeline for that? I mean, we're talking about averages.
I don't have a
we know
timeline.
that many blacks are smarter than the average white. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's like
I mean,
this is
isn't-
not even some like crazy concept. We see it happen all the time, but on average, it's nowhere close.
Yeah, but it's not like there needs to be intellectual stimulation in terms of increasing by like 3 to 15.
If that makes you
They
feel better,
have
do
it.
that.
They don't care about it.
That doesn't make any sense when you say that.
They don't want to go to school, bro. I mean, what?
Yeah, that doesn't make
What
any
else
sense
do you
when
want
you
me
say
to
that.
tell you?
When you say this single person doesn't want to go to school, and it's not the values of the culture, it's just this single person doesn't want to increase their IQ points. Therefore, they're condemned. That's what you think my
Know
position
how
is.
many black people in the ghettos go to school and listen and do shit
Yeah,
properly?
but isn't their culture kind of shitty because of
Yet still some do the thing normally,
some do,
properly.
some-
So what about
some-
them?
yeah.
Like,
But I'm saying on average, we're
why
only
do they
talking
do it
averages.
normally?
We're only talking averages.
On averages, they don't. That's the problem. Yes.
Yeah, on average they don't, but is there a reason
Yeah.
why they don't? Because we hypothetically, according to research, we could fill that gap. But they don't have the values. Probably
All right, guys,
because
I gotta
of-
bounce. I gotta go fight my ban on Patreon for hate speech. I gotta
All
go
right.
deal
Talk
with this
to
shit.
God.
Destiny.
Good luck with that, bro.
please.
Talk with Destiny.
He would love to talk to you.
All right, man.
All right.
That was fun.
Yeah.
See you later.
All right.
Take care, bro. Nice talking to you.
Yep. All right. See you.